Chapter 9:15. What did you say? Kong Xiong was stunned. He thought he was hallucinating. She was the princess of the Ice Spirit royal family, which had fallen so far that it was about to fall out of the 100 royal families. How dare she speak to him with such an attitude? It felt like a slave stepping on his master's head. She didn't even care about seniority. I won't repeat myself. Fei Qingxue stood there. Her figure was slim, like a plum blossom in winter. Although she had gone through the harsh winter, she still bloomed proudly, blooming with her own beauty and perseverance. Who said that women couldn't control their own fate? Fei Qingxue, how dare you speak to brother Kong Xiong like that? Prince Yang shouted. If Fei Qingxue continued to talk back, it wouldn't be a matter of becoming his concubine. It would be another matter if she could survive. The surrounding foreign creatures all sucked in a cold breath of air, extremely shocked and surprised. Fei Qingxue's guts were simply too big. It was no different from courting death. Interesting, very interesting. I've seen many women who pretend to be virtuous. But in the end, they still kneel at my feet one by one and rush to lick my shoes. Kong Xiong smiled. But his smile was a little cold. He slowly raised his hand. Divine light surged in his palm. It was the Black Peacock royal family's secret technique, killing light. A wave of great saint realm cultivation spread out. At his age, he was already considered a monster to have reached the supreme saint realm. Fei Qingxue's expression was grave. Although she had obtained an opportunity to break through to the Saint King realm. But obviously, it was impossible for her to catch up with those top royal family geniuses in a short time. Just as Kong Xiong was about to make a move, a few rainbows flew over from afar. They were the Ice Spirit royal family elders. Young Master Kong Xiong, please forgive our Fei Qingxue for talking back. We will arrange for her to marry Prince Yang. These elders of the Icy Spirit royal family were all very humble. Elders, all of you, Fei Qingxue bit her lip. Indeed, she wasn't alone. She had the Ice Spirit royal family behind her. If she really angered Kong Xiong, the entire Ice Spirit royal family would be in great danger. As if he saw the hesitation in Fei Qingxue's eyes, Kong Xiong revealed a playful look. Ari, this young master is actually very easy to talk to. Let this Fei Qingxue kneel, crawl to my feet, and lick my shoes. Then, this matter will be over, Kong Xiong said calmly. Young Master Kong Xiong, the elders of the Icy Spirit royal family clenched their fists tightly, their pupils trembling. His heart was filled with rage, but he did not dare to show it. They had already lowered their posture very much, almost as if they were the sons of a B*TCH. Yet, this Kong Xiong actually dared to humiliate him like this. Prince Yang opened his mouth, wanting to say something. However, in the end, he didn't dare to open his mouth. Fei Qingxue would become his concubine in the future. Now, she had to crawl on the streets and lick Kong Xiong's shoes. To Prince Yang, this was a loss of face. He might even be laughed at. But in the end, he didn't say anything. Fei Qingxue's delicate body trembled slightly. Her silver eyes seemed to have stirred up a biting cold wind. You don't want to do it? Sure, but I wonder if your Ice Spirit royal family can bear the consequences? Kong Xiong asked indifferently. Fei Qingxue took a deep breath, her nails digging into her palms. Grasping one's own fate might be very simple. At worst, it would just be death. However, grasping the fate of an entire race was very difficult. Fei Qingxue revealed a somewhat bleak smile. This was the cold and iron-blooded law of the jungle in this foreign land. If one was weak, had a weak status, and had a weak background, there was no dignity to speak of. Just as Fei Qingxue was struggling, a voice as gentle as jade suddenly rang out. I think that you can give a demonstration first. This voice was both near and far. However, it seemed to resound in everyone's ears. Many people were startled and looked around. Who is it? Who would have the guts to provoke Kong Xiong at this time? The crowd in front was pushed aside by a strange aura. Two figures leisurely walked over. The one in the lead was dressed in white. He had a slender figure and a restrained aura. He was like a bottomless pit, making it hard for others to see through him. His face seemed to be shrouded in mist. However, one could vaguely see a corner of his face. He looked like a celestial being, stunning everyone. Beside the white-robed man was a petite little attendant with red lips and white teeth. She blinked her big eyes and looked at the situation curiously. They were none other than Jun Xiaoyaro and Chun Chun. Which family is this young master from? Some of the foreign land creatures were stunned and very curious. However, no matter how they probed, they couldn't sense Jun Xiaoyao's aura at all, let alone his cultivation level. Even his appearance was like looking at flowers in the mist. They only felt that he was very stunning, but they couldn't remember clearly afterward. This was naturally the effect of the sky-stealing sun-swapping technique. However, in any case, Jun Xiaoyaro was very mysterious in everyone's eyes. Who are you? Kong Xiong looked at Jun Xiaoyaro and frowned. He couldn't sense Jun Xiaoyao's aura either. However, he only thought that Jun Xiaoyaro had some kind of Dharma artifact that blocked his senses. He definitely didn't think that this ridiculously young man would be stronger than him. Who I am is not important. What's important is whether you can demonstrate how to lie on the ground and lick a shoe, Jun Xiaoyaro said indifferently. Haha, the hero saving the beauty. This is a bit tacky. Besides, do you have the capital to save him? Kong Xiong smiled, revealing his white and shiny teeth. Jun Xiaoyaro chuckled as well, refusing to comment on the matter. He stood up naturally because Fei Qingxue was the lady of luck that he had personally created. He even gave her a drop of precious supreme divine blood. How could such a chess piece be forced to death by Kong Xiong? Wouldn't that ruin his plan? Jun Xiaoyaro had always been merciless to people who ruined his plans. Fei Qingxue also looked at Jun Xiaoyaro with her beautiful eyes. She couldn't help but be amazed by him. Jun Xiaoyao's temperament was excellent. He was like a celestial being who walked in the chaotic world. However, why would he help her? The few Ice Spirit royal family elders were also puzzled. However, they didn't think that this white-clothed prince could suppress Kong Xiong. However, before Kong Xiong could get angry, Prince Yang jumped out from the side and said, "Who are you? How dare you be so presumptuous?" Jun Xiaoyao's eyes narrowed, and a chaotic divine light flashed in his eyes. His gaze was like an invisible chaotic sword light. The void trembled. A loud boom sounded. Puff. Prince Yang's entire body and primordial spirit exploded at the same time. Blood mist and broken bones were blown away by the wind. All of a sudden, the entire area fell into absolute silence. All the onlookers were shocked and felt their scalps go numb. It was as if a basin of cold water had been poured on their hearts. Killing a royal heavenly talent with a gaze. What kind of heaven-defying technique was this? Chapter 9:16. Gasps could be heard from all around. Their eyes were filled with unprecedented shock and disbelief. Prince Yang was a top prodigy of the Cinder-classed royal family. Although he couldn't be compared to the 10 heavenly kings, he was still quite famous among the younger generation of the heavenly tomb state. Yet, he was killed by a single glare. How terrifying was that? What was even more terrifying was that Jun Xiaoyao didn't release any aura throughout the entire process. As a result, no one could figure out what cultivation level Jun Xiaoyao was at. The entire place was as silent as cicadas in winter. No one could react in time. Even Kong Xiong felt that it was unreal for a moment. Jun Xiaoyao's expression was indifferent. He could kill such a person with a casual glare when he was in the divine ruins. Not to mention now that his cultivation level and strength had increased greatly, a glare was more than enough. You're courting death. Those Cinder-classed royal family experts were stunned for a few breaths before they reacted. Because even they themselves thought that they were hallucinating. All the Cinder-classed royal family experts' eyes turned red. If Prince Yang died, the guards wouldn't be able to escape death either. Therefore, all of them charged forward with bloodshot eyes. There was no lack of great sage perfection experts among them. This was a very powerful cultivation level in the foreign realm. However, Jun Xiaoyao only glanced at them. Chaotic divine light surged in his eyes. His eyes seemed to have turned into primordial chaotic black holes. This was also an ability of the chaotic physique, the chaotic eye. Bang! 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 A series of explosions sounded. The heads of those cinder-classed royal family experts exploded like watermelons. Blood mist drifted in the sky. The noisy street fell into absolute silence. Fei Qingxue couldn't help but cover her red lips with her jade-like hand. She was too shocked. When did such a powerful and mysterious prodigy appear in the heavenly tomb state? Kong Xiong's face stiffened. He was completely dumbfounded. His eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. It wasn't that he had never seen a true top prodigy. He had even seen monarch race prodigies. However, no matter how powerful they were, they would at least be able to kill them. How could they be like this mysterious white-clothed young man in front of him? He could kill with a casual glance. Just how powerful was he? Or did he have some kind of special physique? Perhaps this was not a young man at all, but an old monster. Senior, why are you pretending to be young and fooling us? Kong Xiong braced himself and asked. To possess such an ability, one must have at least broken through the 9th level of the Saint Realm and stepped into the 7th level of the Martial Saint Realm. This kind of person, even in the top royal families, was an existence of the older generation. He wasn't someone he could offend. Senior, I'm not worthy of this status, Jun Xiaoyaro said indifferently. Everyone could hear the hint of mockery in his words. The corners of Kong Xiong's eyes twitched, and he felt as if his heart was being squeezed by a large hand. It was extremely uncomfortable. He had always been in a high position, playing with those lower life forms as he pleased. In the end, at this moment, he himself had become a lower life form that was being controlled by Jun Xiaoyaro at will. His cultivation base was also at the Great Saint Realm, which was similar to the elites of the Cinderstone royal family. If Jun Xiaoyaro could kill them with a single glance, he could naturally kill Kong Xiong as well. I've said it before. You can demonstrate how to lie on the ground and lick someone else's shoes, Jun Xiaoyaro said. Kong Xiong's pupils constricted, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Jun Xiaoyao's humiliation was even worse than killing him. Why? You can order others around, but you can't do it yourself. That's because my status is higher than hers, and I'm stronger than her, Kong Xiong gritted his teeth and said. That's simple. I'm stronger than you, so I can kill you now. Jun Xiaoyao's words carried a hint of coldness and killing intent. Kong Xiong took a deep breath and stared at Jun Xiaoyao. Don't go too far. I'm from the Black Peacock royal family. My cousin is Kong Qianqian, and she's engaged to someone from the Immortal Emperor family. Kong Xiong brought out his backer. Kong Qianqian alone might not be able to suppress this mysterious man in front of him. However, with the Immortal Emperor family, it should be enough. After all, the Immortal Emperor family was a heaven-like existence in the foreign realm. They were the highest law. There was a saying in the foreign realm. Even if it was a dog that walked out of the Immortal Emperor family, they had to be treated like an ancestor. Hearing this, the surrounding foreign realm creatures secretly nodded. This Kong Xiong really knew how to borrow power. The Immortal Emperor family was indeed very intimidating. Although that Kong Qianqian was very likely just one of the concubines of the Immortal Emperor family prodigy. Jun Xiaoyao laughed. He felt that it was very laughable. In the world of the Divine Ruins, Tushan Xiaoxiao and Piyu Yarrow from the Immortal Emperor family were beaten like dogs by him. In the end, Kong Xiong actually used Kong Qianqian and her Immortal Emperor family fiancé to threaten him. It was really absurd and laughable. Jun Xiaoyao didn't say anything. Chun Chun curled her lips and said, "What's the big deal about marrying into an Immortal Emperor family? She's just a concubine, nothing more than a fart." The group of foreign realm creatures were dumbfounded when they heard this. This little attendant's words were really shocking. "All right, my patience is limited." Jun Xiaoyaro casually stepped out. Boom. Kong Xiong's entire body was directly pressed to the ground by a terrifying aura. His limbs were spread open like a tortoise. A feeling of being on the verge of death descended on Kong Xiong's heart. He had no doubt that if he didn't do as he was told, he would be crushed in the next moment. I'll do it. Kong Xiong slowly crawled toward Jun Xiaoyaro like a dog. The entire place was dead silent. Who would have thought that one of the top 10 royal families, the pride of the Black Peacock royal family, would crawl like a dog in the downtown area and lick someone's shoes. The Ice Spirit royal family elders were also petrified and a little dumbfounded. Young master, where did you come from? How dare you offend the Black Peacock royal family like this? Yeah, he offended both the Fiery Rock royal family and the Black Peacock royal family. The Ice Spirit royal family elders were still in disbelief. Only Fei Qingxue looked at Jun Xiaoyaro with eyes that had never been brighter before. She knew that Jun Xiaoyaro insisted on making Kong Xiong lick his shoes on the ground to vent her anger. Why? Fei Qingxue was overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. Why did this mysterious and peerless young master care about her so much? Kong Xiong's face was full of humiliation. Blood dripped from the corners of his mouth and chin. Like a dead dog, he crawled toward Jun Xiaoyao's feet. He endured the extreme humiliation and wanted to lick Jun Xiaoyao's shoes. But the next moment, Jun Xiaoyaro stomped his foot. Bang! A blast of air rose and Kong Xiong's entire body exploded. His body and primordial spirit no longer existed. Sorry, I'm a clean freak. Jun Xiaoyao's indifferent words fell like a feather falling to the ground. Everyone around was stunned and then incomparably horrified. The pride of the top royal family was killed just like that. And he killed him after toying with him. This young master was a ruthless person. The Ice Spirit royal family elders were stunned and their scalps went numb. This was going to pierce through the sky. The surrounding atmosphere instantly boiled and exploded. Jun Xiaoyaro walked in front of Fei Qingxue indifferently, an inexplicable look in his eyes. It was time to continue fooling this daughter of Providence. Aren't you going to entertain me? Jun Xiaoyaro asked. Oh, okay, young master, come with Qingxue. Fei Qingxue was startled like a frightened rabbit at first, then her fair skin instantly turned red with a trace of panic and shyness. Seeing this, Chun rolled her eyes. Was the handsome guy going to harm a good girl again? Fei Qingxue led Jun Xiaoyaro and Chun to the Ice Spirit royal family's encampment. The elders of the Ice Spirit royal family, however, looked worried and followed him. There was a lot of noise around. Oh my God, who is that young master in white? Is he really the heir of an emperor family? I've never heard of him. But if he doesn't have a powerful background, he probably can't afford to offend the Black Peacock royal family, right? Then let's wait and see. Kong Xiong's death, his cousin Kong Qianqian will definitely not let him go. When the Heavenly Immortal Banquet begins, there will be a good show. Chapter 9:17. The entire ancient city was in an uproar. Countless people were talking about Jun Xiaoyaro. He was very curious about this mysterious young man in white. As for Kong Xiong, he came to the ancient city in advance to support Prince Yang. In the end, he even lost his life. His cousin, Kong Qianqian, would come on the day of the Heavenly Immortal Banquet. One could imagine that the real show would begin when the Heavenly Immortal Banquet began. At this moment, in the western area of the ancient city, there was a rather exquisite courtyard. It was the residence of the Ice Spirit royal family. Fei Qingxue brought Jun Xiaoyaro and Chun here. The three of them entered a pavilion. As for the Ice Spirit royal family elders, they were discussing something with a worried look on their faces. At the same time, they were also sending messages to Heavenly Venerable Ice Spirit. After all, the incident this time was too big. They had offended the Firestone royal family and the Black Peacock royal family. Perhaps the Ice Spirit royal family would also be implicated. In the foreign realm, it was not uncommon for a family to be wiped out. At this moment, in the pavilion, Jun Xiaoyaro sat in the seat of honor. Chun sat beside him. Fei Qingxue stood there respectfully. She knew that no matter where this man in white came from, he was definitely not someone she could be rude to. Besides, Fei Qingxue was extremely grateful to Jun Xiaoyaro. After all, not everyone could offend the Firestone royal family and the Black Peacock royal family for a stranger. Little one, you go out first. Jun Xiaoyaro said lightly. Chun wrinkled her little nose when she heard that. Although she did not like this title, she still let out a snort and left. In the pavilion, only Jun Xiaoyaro and Fei Qingxue were left. Fei Qingxue was inexplicably nervous. Why did this man ask the others to go out? Was it like in the stories, where the hero saved the beauty and promised to marry her? But for some reason, Fei Qingxue did not feel too disgusted or resistant. This was definitely not because the man in white in front of her was handsome and strong. Well, that was definitely not the case. Do you know why I saved you? Zhun Xiaoyao asked. Qingxue doesn't know. Fei Qingxue lowered her head. Zhun Xiaoyao suddenly stood up. A vast aura overflowed from it. In the next moment, her surroundings changed. Fei Qingxue seemed to have been pulled into the depths of the vast starry sky. A familiar aura and pressure caused Fei Qingxue's expression to change abruptly. Her face was filled with deep shock. She looked at Zhun Xiaoyao, her heart beating rapidly. Could it be, I am the god of fate and creation, the spokesperson of the mortal realm, his preacher, and the embodiment of his will? Zhun Xiaoyao's expression was calm as his voice reverberated throughout the starry sky. The reason why Zhun Xiaoyao didn't directly say that he was the god of fate and creation was because he didn't want to be called the god of fate and creation. This was because gods had to be high and mighty, mysterious and unfathomable. Only then could they inspire reverence in people's hearts. If God lifted the veil, the deterrence would be much less. Therefore, Zhun Xiaoyao would not directly say that he was the god of fate and creation. Instead, he made himself the spokesperson of God. In this way, Zhun Xiaoyao's authoritative position was not shaken. God was still the high and mighty God. Fei Qingxue greets the oracle. Fei Qingxue knelt down. She finally understood why this white-clothed man would save her. It turned out that he was the oracle of the god of fate and creation. He sensed her suffering and came to her rescue. This strengthened Fei Qingxue's faith in him. You don't have to be nervous. Just call me sir. As long as you are a devout believer of the god of fate and creation, God will favor his believers. Zhun Xiaoyao smiled faintly, his expression calm. Of course. Qingxue is an eternal believer of the god of fate and creation. I am willing to sacrifice everything for him, Fei Qingxue said with a devout expression. Very good. I also know that the situation of the Ice Spirit royal family is indeed not very good. But it doesn't matter. God will protect you. Next, you can teach the Daoist heart demonic seed art that God bestowed upon you to the others in the clan to cultivate. Then, your entire clan will quietly become stronger. After that, wait for my orders and arrangements to pass the Daoist heart demonic seed art to the other royal and general clans, Zhun Xiaoyao said. He finally revealed his purpose for coming here. Zhun Xiaoyao was now laying out a step-by-step plan. The weakest slave clan had Tuoba Yu as a pawn. As for the royal family, Zhun Xiaoyao would not be able to infiltrate those prosperous royal families in a short time. The declining Ice Spirit royal family happened to be the best pawn. They were also the ones who desired to become stronger the most. As long as there was a desire, there would be a desire to take advantage of it. After Zhun Xiaoyao controlled the Ice Spirit royal family, he would infiltrate the other royal families step by step. Of course, this was not something that could be done in a short time. Even infiltrating the Ice Spirit royal family needed to be done step by step. After all, there were also powerhouses like Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit in the Ice Spirit royal family. Zhun Xiaoyao figured that even if it was just a declining Ice Spirit royal family, the power of faith provided by it would still be more than hundreds of slave clans. Of course, the slave clans could quickly spread their faith. In terms of speed and scale, they were far superior to the royal families. Qingxue will follow your orders, Fei Qingxue bowed and said. In the next moment, the world changed, and they returned to the original pavilion. Fei Qingxue was nervous and shy before. In fact, there were even some muddle-headed fantasies. But now, she had absolute respect and admiration for Zhun Xiaoyao. After all, this was the oracle of the god of fate and creation, the spokesperson of the human world. All right, let's wait for the celestial immortal banquet to begin. Also, tell your clan's elders not to worry. I will not ignore the troubles of the Cinderclast royal family and the Black Peacock royal family, Zhun Xiaoyao said. Thank you, sir. Fei Qingxue's pretty face was flushed, revealing a trace of excitement. What she was most worried about was whether the two royal families would take revenge on the Ice Spirit royal family. Now it seemed that with Jun Xiaoyaro around, what was there to be afraid of? In the small courtyard, a few Ice Spirit royal family elders were a little anxious. After all, this matter was caused by Fei Qingxue. The Ice Spirit royal family could not escape the responsibility. Elders, don't worry. Fei Qingxue walked over. Miss Qingxue, that young master's identity is. There was a glimmer of hope in an elder's eyes. They did not hope that Jun Xiaoyaro was the successor of the immortal emperor clan. As long as he was from the quasi-emperor clan, this crisis could be resolved. Fei Qingxue shook her head faintly and said, "Elders, don't worry about this kind of thing. Everything will be clear during the celestial immortal banquet." Hearing Fei Qingxue's words, the elders' worried faces did not diminish. They could only hope that a miracle would happen. Fei Qingxue saw the elders' worried faces and secretly felt a little amused. You don't even know what kind of background Mr. has. You don't even know what kind of supreme existence is standing behind him. Chapter 9:18. After a few days, everyone in the ancient city could feel it. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth was rolling and boiling like an ocean. The heavenly immortal banquet is about to begin. The geniuses of the general and royal clans were excited and eager to try. I heard that there are 5 heavenly immortal fruits on the heavenly immortal tree this time. I wonder who will be lucky enough to taste them. Don't even think about it. You might not even be able to drink a cup of immortal tea made from immortal spiritual leaves, let alone the heavenly immortal fruits. Even a whiff of the tea's fragrance is enough to elevate one's cultivation, let alone drinking it. A lot of discussions came from all around the ancient city. By the way, I wonder if the mysterious young master who killed Prince Yang and Kong Xiong a few days ago will attend the banquet. I think so. There will be a good show to watch. While the entire ancient city was in an uproar. In the courtyard of the Icy Spirit royal family. "Mr. The heavenly immortal banquet is about to begin," Fei Qingxue said respectfully. Jun Xiaoyaro walked out calmly, looking into the distance with a calm expression. A giant peak that almost reached the clouds was faintly discernible in the clouds. He could sense a dense flow of energy, accompanied by the radiance of the immortal Tao. The foreign realm was vast and filled with resources. It was even bigger than the 9 heavens immortal realm. There were all kinds of heaven-defying opportunities. The heavenly immortal tree was one of them. "Let's go," Jun Xiaoyaro said. He, Chun Chun, and Fei Qingxue set off together. Several elders of the Icy Spirit royal family followed behind him, frowning. It's the Icy Spirit royal family. That mysterious young master is going to attend the heavenly immortal banquet too. This is going to be interesting. Many people were paying attention to Jun Xiaoyao's movements. Jun Xiaoyao's appearance at the moment undoubtedly caused an uproar all around. The fallen immortal ridge was a famous treasure land in the heavenly tomb state. As the name suggested, it was said that a drop of immortal blood had fallen here. It nourished a heavenly immortal tree. The entire fallen immortal ridge was shrouded in mist and spiritual light. There were green pines, green cypresses, jade flowers, and ravines. It was a spectacular sight. At the center of the fallen immortal ridge was a strange peak that towered into the clouds like a pillar. The peak was where the heavenly immortal tree grew. This strange peak was very special. It had a special domain. Even a sage would find it difficult to fly through the air as they would be greatly suppressed. Because of this, the heavenly immortal banquet gradually became the place where the geniuses of the heavenly tomb state competed. Only the strong could reach the peak. Immortal, immortal, immortal fruit. Meanwhile, at this moment, the surrounding mountain ridges were already densely packed with foreign creatures. Among them, the ones with the lowest status were still from the general clan. The slave race didn't have the qualifications to set foot in this place. On top of a certain mountain ridge, a group of royal creatures were having a discussion. They could be said to be the most elite group of geniuses at the heavenly immortal banquet. One of the royal prodigies had 4 pairs of eyes on his face and a pair of moth-like wings on his back. The Moth Demon royal clan was ranked in the top 50 of the 100 great royal clans, and was considered one of the more prosperous royal clans. Our world suffered a crushing defeat in the divine ruins. Apart from Piyu Yarrow and Tushan Xiaoxiao, all of the younger generation died. It's really shocking. What's even more shocking is that I heard that there was only one immortal realm prodigy who defeated our world. At the side, a young man with 2 golden horns on his forehead clicked his tongue and sighed. He was a young prodigy of the golden sheep race. That person is the son of God of the immortal realm's Jun family. His name is Jun Xiaoyao. I heard that he was a peerless man. In the end, he sealed the evil intent of a god and died. I really want to see what kind of person he is. A beautiful woman in a silver dress asked with a hint of curiosity in her eyes. She was a prodigy of the silver royal race. The silver royal race was one of the top 10 royal races, just like the black peacock royal race. Silver spirit, you sound like there are no good men in our world. The young prodigy of the golden sheep race shook his head. That's not the case. A while ago, there was a shocking phenomenon. A black hexagram appeared in the sky. Some people said that the dark echelon of the doomsday era had awakened, Silver Spirit said. Her words caused the expressions of the royal prodigies present to turn serious. The dark echelon of the doomsday era was not someone ordinary prodigies could compare to. Even the 10 heavenly kings of the younger generation were only fit to carry the shoes of the dark echelon. I wonder who that dark echelon is. The prodigy of the moth demon royal race was also curious. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from afar. Maybe we can see the dark echelon when the Ars Academy opens. A man in a black cloak appeared in the distance. His hair was as black as ink, and his eyes were like 2 black holes. That's the prodigy of the exotic Taoist race. Some royal prodigies were shocked. The exotic Taoist race was the same as the evil dragon race and the fallen demonic phoenix race. They were all boundary emperor races. This race was rumored to have a portion of the bloodline of the Dao Tai, a great ancient beast. It was said that they had the ability to swallow the heavens. As expected, a boundary emperor prodigy has appeared. However, what shocked the royal prodigies were the words of the exotic Taoist prodigy. The Ars Academy is really opening. The prodigy of the golden sheep race exclaimed. It should be. I heard that the 9 Heavens Immortal Academy, the Supreme Academy in the Immortal region, has already opened. They are going to nurture the true elites. Our world naturally has to take countermeasures. The opening of the Ars Academy is imperative, Silver Spirit said. The Ars Academy is the Supreme Academy of our world. It hasn't opened for several eras. I didn't expect it to open in this great era. I wonder what kind of storm it will cause. Some royal prodigies sighed. The Ars Academy was named after the god of war. Naturally, it was to nurture the invincible god of war prodigies. Its purpose was the same as the 9 Heavens Immortal Academy in the Immortal region. It was to focus on nurturing the top figures of a world. They could grow into pillars of the world in the future. The invincible gods of war that walked out of the Ars Academy were all existences that could sweep through their peers. In history, there was once a young god of war from the Ars Academy. In the desolate border, he consecutively killed 10 seedlings from the immortal region. It could be said that his ferocious might overflowed into the heavens. A young supreme being who could be conferred the title of god of war would at least reach the quasi-immortal realm in the future. It wouldn't be difficult for them to reach the true immortal realm. Actually, the reason why the Heavenly Immortal Banquet is opening in the Heavenly Tomb State is also to prepare for the Ars Academy. They want to raise the competitiveness of our Heavenly Tomb State's younger generation. On the other side, a dragon-like roar and snake-like voice sounded. It was a large golden snake. It wasn't big, only about 3 meters long. It had a pair of 3-meter-long wings on its back. It was even larger than the snake's body. It could speak the human language. When it opened its mouth, it released a voice that could penetrate metal and split stone. Boundary Emperor race, Snake race. The surrounding royal prodigies stirred again. It seemed like the competition in today's Heavenly Immortal Banquet would definitely be very intense. Because the Ars Academy was about to open, the stronger one was, the more likely they would be taken in and fight for the title of God of War. Just as everyone was discussing the Heavenly Immortal Banquet and the Ars Academy. In the distant sky, a luxurious ship was flying through the air. Two figures stood on it. The Black Peacock Royal Race's proud daughter has come. The one beside her is, hiss, could it be someone from the immortal Emperor race? Chapter 919. The luxurious ship traversed the void, flowing with brilliant lights and vibrant colors, bringing with it a sense of luxury. In the foreign realm, the hierarchy was strict. The weaker races wouldn't dare to be so arrogant and ride on fancy transportation tools. On the deck of the ship, a young man and woman stood there. The woman was dressed in a long black dress, which outlined her graceful figure. Her appearance was also excellent. She had phoenix eyes, red lips, and jade-like facial features. Her black hair was tied up with a peacock stone hairpin. She exuded a high and mighty aura. She was a cold and arrogant beauty. She was the proud daughter of the Black Peacock Royal Race, Kong Qianqian. Beside her stood a man. His face was very young, and there was a divine pattern between his brows. His aura was extraordinary. Standing beside Kong Qianqian, he did not seem inferior at all. Everyone looked over. At first, they were surprised, but then they heaved a sigh of relief. I was scared to death. I thought it was Kong Qianqian's husband. If he came, what could we do? That's right. It's Li Jiui of the infernal race. His combat strength is ranked in the top 3 of the 10 heavenly kings. He's a true emperor race elite and one of the leading figures. The man beside Kong Qianqian seems to be Li Jiui's servant. He should be here with her to boost her momentum. Kong Qianqian's arrival undoubtedly set off a wave. Even the prodigies of the exotic Taoist race and the snake race did not dare to underestimate her. Although they were the prodigies of the quasi-emperor races, their status was higher than Kong Qianqian's. However, Kong Qianqian was Li Jiui's woman. Even if she was just a concubine, her status was not something an ordinary quasi-emperor race could compare to. The immortal emperor races were supreme existences in the foreign realm. Their status was inviolable. Miss Qianqian, Master said that he needs to go into seclusion to prepare for the War God Academy. This time, he asked me to accompany you to pick the immortal spirit leaf and heavenly immortal fruit. The servant of Li Jiui was called Wu Kuan. He was thousands of years old. Compared to cultivators, he was considered young. His cultivation was at the quasi-supreme realm. However, at this moment, Kong Qianqian's expression was not too good. There was a hint of coldness in her eyes. Seeing this, Wu Kuan said, Miss Qianqian, is it because of your cousin? Don't worry, I will settle this matter. Yes. Although that cousin of mine was a good-for-nothing, he was still somewhat related to me by blood. If the white-clothed man who killed him appears today, don't let him leave. Kong Qianqian's tone was indifferent. Kong Xiong was only her cousin. They weren't very close, but he was still part of her family. Kong Xiong was killed, so Kong Qianqian had to do something. If that white-robed man appeared today, he would be able to take care of him. Even if he didn't appear, she had ways to send experts from her clan to look for him. After all, the prestige of a top royal family was not to be challenged. Just as Kong Qianqian was thinking about this, a voice suddenly rang out. All of a sudden, cries of surprise rang out from all around. That white-clothed young master actually came. He's really bold. He knew that Kong Qianqian would come during the heavenly immortal banquet. This time, there are even people from emperor clans accompanying him. This young master might be in a bit of a predicament. Amidst the hubbub, a white-robed young master with a mysterious temperament walked leisurely through the air. His footsteps were light, slow, and leisurely. He didn't emit any shocking aura, but he gave off an unfathomable feeling. Is the heavenly immortal tree up there? The person who appeared was naturally Jun Xiaoyao. He raised his head slightly and could vaguely see an ancient tree shrouded in a hazy immortal mist at the peak of the mountain. Wow, there's going to be heavenly immortal fruits to eat. Chun Chun drooled. Clearly, this little foodie could no longer hold herself back. Fei Qingshue's expression was firm. There was no sign of panic. It was as if in her heart, Jun Xiaoyao's words were unquestionable. If Jun Xiaoyao said there was no need to worry, then there was definitely no need to worry. On the other hand, the few icy spirit royal elders who came with them all looked anxious. especially when they saw Kong Qianqian and Wu Kuan from the Emperor clan. Their faces were even paler, and their eyes were trembling. The people from the infernal Emperor clan. The icy spirit royal elder was in despair. If the Emperor clan hadn't appeared, there might still be a chance to turn things around. Now, it seemed that Kong Qianqian was going to settle the score with them. The moment Zhun Xiaoyaro appeared, Kong Qianqian cast her gaze over. She was also stunned for a moment. It had to be said that Zhun Xiaoyao's temperament was too extraordinary. It was as if he was a true immortal walking in the mortal world. Although he didn't reveal a trace of his aura, he gave people the feeling that he was even more noble than the Emperor clan. Kong Qianqian and Wu Kuan, who originally had extraordinary temperaments, were in front of Zhun Xiaoyaro. They were simply like chickens in an instant. "You're the one who killed my cousin?" Kong Qianqian questioned. Only then did Zhun Xiaoyaro slowly retract his gaze, and then it landed on Kong Qianqian. Divine Lord cultivation. For her age, she was considered to be extremely talented and powerful. It was no wonder that some people said that Kong Qianqian's strength was close to that of the 10 heavenly kings. However, even Pu Yarou, one of the 10 heavenly kings, was no match for Zhun Xiaoyaro. Kong Qianqian was nothing. Moreover, at that time, it was in the world of the divine ruins. Zhun Xiaoyao's strength was worlds apart from now. If Zhun Xiaoyaro wanted to kill Pu Yarou now, it wouldn't take much effort. Seeing that Zhun Xiaoyaro had no intention of answering, Wu Kuan stood up. He said coldly, "Didn't you hear Miss Qianqian's question? You dare to do it but don't dare to admit it." As soon as Wu Kuan finished speaking, he immediately felt a gaze on him. In an instant, Wu Kuan felt as if a mountain was pressing down on his body. That pressure was even stronger than the pressure of his master, Li Jiuyi. Thud. 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 Wu Kuan took a few steps back, cold sweat appearing on his back. "Wu Kuan, what's wrong?" Kong Qianqian turned her head. Wu Kuan was a quasi-supreme powerhouse. He had been by Li Jiuyi's side all year round, and his strength was also extremely impressive. "No, nothing." Wu Kuan exhaled deeply. He was a little puzzled and felt that Zhun Xiaoyaro was a little strange. However, when he thought of his identity as an Emperor clan member, Wu Kuan's confidence rose. His master was one of the 10 heavenly kings, Li Jiuyi. Standing behind him was the immortal infernal race. In the entire foreign territory, there were not many people who could make him feel apprehensive. Just as the atmosphere was a little tense, several old antiques who were hosting the Heavenly Immortal Banquet appeared. "Geniuses, the Heavenly Immortal Banquet is about to start. If there's anything, let's settle it later." These old antiques stood in the void, and their strength was extraordinary. If he dares to climb the mountain, we'll take care of him." Kong Qianqian snorted coldly. This time, with Wu Kuan around, she was destined to get the Heavenly Immortal fruit. "All right, everyone, let the Heavenly Immortal Banquet begin," an old antique said. In an instant, countless ear-piercing sounds of wind breaking rang out between heaven and earth. All the prodigies of the foreign territory rushed towards that towering strange peak almost at the same time. The prodigies of the Moth Demon Royal race and the Golden Sheep race. The prodigy of the Silver Royal race, Yin Ling. There were also the Quasi-Emperor race, the exotic Taoist race, and the Snake race. They all rushed up at the same time. Kong Qianqian glanced coldly at Zhun Xiaoyaro and also climbed the mountain with Wu Kuan. The moment all the prodigies climbed the mountain, a huge pressure pressed down on them. As a result, everyone could only climb step by step. This was also a kind of test. Some of the creatures who didn't participate in the Heavenly Immortal Banquet looked at Zhun Xiaoyaro. Because he didn't rush over like the others. "Sir, we..." Chun Chun rubbed her little hands. She was craving the Heavenly Immortal fruit. "This Heavenly Immortal Banquet is a little boring." Zhun Xiaoyaro shook his head slightly. He thought he would encounter some interesting opponents. In the end, none of the 10 heavenly kings showed up. The only quasi-supreme, Wu Kuan, also made him lose interest. "Then let's just go and pick it." Zhun Xiaoyaro sighed and took both Chun Chun and Fei Qingxue with him, stepping into the air and leaving. Just as Zhun Xiaoyaro entered the strange peak area, Everyone's eyes were focused on him. The next moment, all the creatures of the foreign territory were dumbfounded. Jun Xiaoyaro stepped into the void and walked towards the peak step by step. What about the others? They were crawling like turtles. Chapter 920. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have thought that they were dreaming. This fallen immortal ridge, especially the strange peak area where the celestial tree was located. There was an extremely strong domain suppression. Even quasi-supremes could only walk. But now, they saw something. Jun Xiaoyaro was walking in the air. And he was carrying 2 burdens. That was ridiculous. I want to report him. He's cheating. A foreign prodigy shouted, feeling extremely unbalanced. What's going on? The old antique host of the heavenly immortal banquet was also surprised. There shouldn't be many people in the younger generation who could resist the suppression of this domain. They tried to get closer, but they also felt an extremely strong suppression. At the same time, several divine senses scanned Jun Xiaoyao. Hey, this junior is quite something. It's actually difficult to detect his aura, an old antique said in surprise. But other than that, they didn't find anything unusual. The only explanation was, this white-robed young man might be stronger than everyone imagined. There's nothing unusual. Let's continue as usual, an old antique said. After saying that, some of the controversy subsided. These old antiques were at least supremes and above, so there shouldn't be any mistakes. How is that possible? Kong Qianqian also couldn't believe it. Because she was quite strong and had Wu Kuan with her, her speed was in the first echelon. But compared to Jun Xiaoyaro, the difference was like heaven and earth. This made everyone's mentality collapse. No one could accept it. How can this be? Then what's the point of us coming here to participate in the heavenly immortal banquet? The golden sheep race's prodigy shouted. With his speed, whether it's the immortal spirit leaf or the heavenly immortal fruit, they will probably fall into his hands, Silver Spirit said. Haha, he also needs to be alive to enjoy it. Could it be that he dares to offend all of the royal, quasi-emperor, and monarch clans? The exotic Taoist race's prodigy sneered. There were so many prodigies present. How could the white-robed man take all the benefits alone? The exotic Taoist race's prodigy thought that the white-robed man shouldn't have the guts to take all the opportunities alone. This would undoubtedly offend all the prodigies present. The other prodigies also thought so. However, very soon, Jun Xiaoyaro took Chun Chun and Fei Qingxue to the top of the mountain. At the top of the mountain, an ancient tree towered into the sky. The leaves were not very dense, but rather sparse. However, those leaves were all very strange. On the leaf, there were vague depictions of the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, lakes, and seas. It was as if the scenery of the world was depicted on the leaf. There was a natural Daoist rhyme lingering around and merging with the Tao. At the same time, the entire celestial immortal tree's body was covered in many blood-like veins. It must be the influence of that drop of immortal's blood. Is this the celestial immortal tree? Fei Qingxue was shocked. Originally, with her strength, it was impossible for her to reach this place. Now, just looking at it made him feel very satisfied. After all, just sitting cross-legged and cultivating under the celestial immortal tree was able to obtain enormous benefits. It's a pretty good treasure. Jun Xiaoyaro was also slightly impressed. With Jun Xiaoyao's picky eyes, it was not easy to get some praise from him. Jun Xiaoyaro could see that this celestial immortal tree had been nourished by a drop of immortal's blood for countless years. It had already emitted a kind of aura that was close to the Tao, not inferior to the Enlightenment ancient tree. Jun Xiaoyaro could even feel that this celestial immortal tree already had some vague self-consciousness. This was rare. In Jun Xiaoyao's inner universe, the world tree had this kind of self-consciousness. That was why it resisted and didn't want the evil god to get it. This celestial immortal tree was not comparable to the world tree. However, it was enough to be called a natural wonder at the level of the spring of life. However, what caught Jun Xiaoyao's attention the most were the celestial immortal fruits. The 5 celestial immortal fruits were placed on the celestial immortal tree like 5 small suns, releasing bright divine light. The multicolored light lingered, thousands of auspicious colors. To Zhang Xiaoyao's surprise, the celestial immortal fruit looked like a little person sitting cross-legged. Zhang Xiaoyao couldn't help but think of the legendary ginseng fruit. Zhang Xiaoyao figured that the reason why the celestial immortal tree could bear the human-shaped celestial immortal fruit was probably related to that drop of immortal's blood. The human-shaped celestial immortal fruit was some kind of extension of the image of the owner of the immortal's blood. The 5 celestial immortal fruits were all supreme treasures. At the same time, they emitted a fragrance that made one's soul float, tempting one to drool. On the side, Chuanchuan's eyes were starry, and her saliva fell like a waterfall. She couldn't stop at all. Sir. Chun Chun was a little impatient. On the other side, Fei Qingxue also secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. No one could resist this fragrance. However, Fei Qingxue lowered her head slightly. She knew that she was not qualified. Zhang Xiaoyao stepped forward. Suddenly, the celestial immortal tree trembled, and various Dao laws intertwined, turning into a light blade that slashed at Zhang Xiaoyao. Obviously, without a certain level of strength, one was not even qualified to pick it. Zhang Xiaoyao chuckled and flicked his sleeve. The aura of chaos emerged and obliterated all the Dao law light blades. It was this move that made the faces of the few old antiques in the sky suddenly freeze. That aura is a bit like, some of the old antiques were surprised and had some guesses in their hearts. Because Zhang Xiaoyao had only used one move, they couldn't really feel it. Zhang Xiaoyao waved his sleeve, and all the immortal spirit leaves and 5 celestial immortal fruits on the celestial immortal tree were plucked. The entire celestial immortal tree instantly became a little bear. Little Munchkin, Qingxue, make some tea, Zhang Xiaoyao said. Coincidentally, there was a stone table and a few stone stools under the celestial immortal tree. Yay! Chun Chun cheered. She hurriedly reached for the 100 treasures pouch at her waist and took out the tea set, the 10,000-year-old ice spring water, and other items. She had planned to come to the celestial banquet, so she had prepared all the items. Looking at the bare celestial immortal tree, Fei Qingxue was speechless. It turned out that Zhang Xiaoyao wanted to take all the opportunities for himself, and he wasn't afraid of angering the crowd. Not only did he want to take them for himself, but he didn't want to leave and instead made tea here. Wasn't he a little too arrogant and condescending? If the other geniuses who ascended saw this, wouldn't they be so angry that they would die? Don't worry. Zhang Xiaoyao smiled. Ascending to the peak alone, tasting immortal tea and immortal fruits was also a great enjoyment. This young man is really, in the sky, the few old antiques couldn't bear to watch anymore. Wasn't he looking down on the younger generation of the heavenly tomb state? Wasn't he too arrogant? These old antiques didn't know Zhang Xiaoyao's true identity. If they knew that Zhang Xiaoyao was from the immortal realm, they definitely wouldn't be so calm. Now, the opportunity that originally belonged to the younger generation of the heavenly tomb state. It was monopolized by Zhang Xiaoyao. Zhang Xiaoyao sat leisurely on the stone stools, while Chun Chun and Fei Qingxue were making tea. At this time, Kong Qianqian, Wu Kuan, Mingxi, the exotic Taoist tribe, and other creatures finally arrived and climbed up with difficulty. When their eyes fell on the bare celestial immortal tree, they all had the urge to vomit blood. Good heavens! How cruel! He didn't even leave a single leaf for them. Chapter 921. At this moment, all the prodigies who had reached the top of the mountain had a mental breakdown. They had finally climbed up the mountain with great difficulty. In the end, Zhang Xiaoyao didn't leave a single leaf for them. Friend, don't you think you've gone too far? The prodigy of the moth demon royal tribe said. He had 4 eyes and a pair of moth wings on his back. At this moment, he was in a bad mood. That's right. As the saying goes, leave some leeway for others in the future. Brother, you've gone too far. The prodigy of the golden sheep tribe also expressed his dissatisfaction. This heavenly immortal banquet was originally a grand event for the younger generation of the heavenly tomb state. Why was Zhang Xiaoyao monopolizing all the benefits now? Then what was the point of the others coming to this banquet? Were they just going to watch? Brother, you can't be like this. Silver Spirit of the Silver Royal Tribe said. She was also a woman whose beauty was known far and wide. Her strength was on par with her beauty, and it was unknown how many men had fallen under her skirt. However, what made Silver Spirit a little stunned was that Jun Xiaoyao didn't even look at her. This made Silver Spirit a little dissatisfied. She was the prodigy of a top-tier royal tribe. It could be said that Jun Xiaoyao had really become the target of public criticism now. Why are you talking so much? Just snatch it. Some royal prodigies were envious, and their eyes were filled with killing intent. Although most of the heavenly immortal banquet stopped at a certain point. If they really killed someone, there wouldn't be any consequences. Of course, that was under the circumstance that their background was similar or stronger than the opponent's. In the eyes of these people, Jun Xiaoyao's background was a mystery. However, they didn't think that Jun Xiaoyao had any powerful background. After all, if he really had a powerful background, such as from a quasi-emperor tribe or even an immortal emperor tribe, it was impossible that they didn't know anything. Therefore, these royal prodigies were very bold. Swoosh! Some of the geniuses of the royal families charged forward like sharp swords, casting spells and heading straight for Jun Xiaoyao. One had to admit that these royal prodigies were very strong. At the same level, it was almost impossible for the immortal domain prodigies to resist. Sadly, although Jun Xiaoyao was a heaven chosen of the immortal realms, his demon-level talent was indescribable. Therefore, in the face of these royal prodigies who were charging at him, Yi Zichen didn't care about them at all. Jun Xiaoyao was also very simple. The light of chaos swirled in his eyes. Chaos Eye. Bang! 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 Those sky prides who rashly rushed towards Jun Xiaoyao. One by one, their heads exploded, and their bodies cracked like bloody fireworks. Everyone was horrified. Dead silence. Even though some of the otherworldly creatures had witnessed Jun Xiaoyao's move in the ancient city, they were still shocked. But looking at it now, it was still shocking. The pupils of the old antiques in the sky abruptly shrank. They had also faintly sensed the faint fluctuation, and the guess in their hearts became increasingly clear. If it was really as they thought. If that was the case, then this mysterious young man's physique was too terrifying. His background was definitely not ordinary. This, the prodigies of the Moth Demon Royal Tribe, the Golden Sheep Tribe, Yin Ling, and the others were all stunned. After all, this move was too strange and powerful, and it was terrifying. Even the prodigies of the exotic Taoist tribe and the Snake Tribe had a serious look in their eyes. Wu Kuan, this person is a little strange. Kong Qianqian also frowned. At first, she only wanted to kill the person who had killed her cousin casually, and that was it. But now, it seemed that it was not so easy. This person is indeed a little strange. I can't detect his aura. But it's okay, he can't overturn the sky. Although a trace of surprise flashed in Wu Kuan's eyes, as a member of the Emperor race, he naturally couldn't show weakness. Not to mention that his cultivation was at the quasi-supreme stage and he had the bloodline of the infernal Emperor race. His strength was stronger than ordinary quasi-supremes. That was why he had such confidence. However, after Jun Xiaoyao used this move, the other prodigies present didn't dare to act rashly. Seeing this scene, the old antiques in the sky sighed. I didn't expect to see such a scene at the heavenly immortal banquet. Yeah, which heavenly immortal banquet in the past wasn't a fierce battle? Unlike this time, all the prodigies were suppressed by one person. One person suppressed the entire younger generation of the heavenly tomb state. TSK, if they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, the old antiques wouldn't have dared to believe it. After all, the people of the foreign domain were valiant and had a strong martial aura. In such an environment, it was extremely difficult to suppress the prodigies of the entire state. Of course, the heavenly tomb state wasn't the most prosperous state among the 10 states of the foreign domain. But to be able to do this was enough to be amazing. At that moment, Chuan's clear voice sounded. Sir, the tea is ready. Jun Xiaoyao glanced over and saw that Chun and Fei Qingxue had already used a portion of the immortal spirit leaf to make 9 cups of tea. Multicolored light shone, and immortal qi was abundant. It was no longer just tea. There seemed to be daoist rhymes flowing in the tea, reflecting all kinds of gorgeous scenes in the world. It could really be called immortal tea. Although this tea was brewed by Chun Chun and Fei Qingxue. But Jun Xiaoyaro didn't drink it, and they didn't dare to drink it first. Jun Xiaoyaro directly picked up a cup of tea and drank it in one gulp. It was as if he drank the world in one gulp. Boom! Jun Xiaoyaro instantly felt that the great Tao patterns between heaven and earth had become clear in front of his eyes. It was as if he could reach out and grab it. At the same time, rich daoist rhymes were emitted. Jun Xiaoyaro felt like he was going to comprehend the Tao on the spot. Good tea. Jun Xiaoyaro continued to pick up the second cup. He had a hobby of drinking tea, and this immortal tea was even more to his taste. After drinking the second cup, Jun Xiaoyao's entire body was enveloped in dazzling light. Then came the third cup. All kinds of true dragon, divine phoenix, and Qilin patterns appeared around Jun Xiaoyao's body. The fourth cup, auspicious signs descended from the heavens, and the great Tao resonated. In the end, 7 cups of immortal tea were drunk. Jun Xiaoyaro felt as if he was about to ascend. His chaotic physique became even more perfect and flawless, and it was unprecedentedly comfortable with his primordial spirit. It could be said that the 7 cups of tea had washed away all the subtle flaws in Jun Xiaoyao's body, and made Jun Xiaoyao's body emit an immortal radiance. When they saw this scene, all of the foreign creatures here were stunned. 7 cups of immortal tea, ascension. Although it wasn't a true ascension, in the eyes of everyone, it was already an extreme transformation and a great opportunity. Damn it! Many geniuses were envious. They could only smell the fragrance of the immortal tea, but Jun Xiaoyaro drank 7 cups in a row. They died from drought, and they died from drowning. However, what made them feel even more unbalanced was, Jun Xiaoyaro gave the remaining 2 cups of tea to Chun Chun and Fei Qingxue. Chun Chun didn't mind it. She cheered and swallowed it in one gulp. With her cultivation strength, drinking a cup of immortal tea was enough. Moreover, there were still some immortal spirit leaves left, so she could soak them in the future. As for Fei Qingxue, she was pleasantly surprised and a little flattered. She didn't expect to be able to get a cup of immortal tea. Thank you, sir. Fei Qingxue bowed to Jun Xiaoyaro. Then, she carefully picked up the teacup and sipped the tea, comprehending the opportunity and daoist rhymes. Originally, with her cultivation strength, it was absolutely impossible for her to drink immortal tea. Seeing this scene, the quasi-emperors and royal elites had a mental breakdown. How could a little attendant drink immortal tea? And Fei Qingxue, a princess of a declining royal family, could also enjoy such treatment. A hint of jealousy appeared on Yinling's pretty face. She knew that her appearance, strength, and status were all better than Fei Qingxue's. Why could Fei Qingxue drink immortal tea, but she could only watch from the side? This made her heart sour, and she turned into a lemon. Sir, may I have the honor of tasting a cup of immortal tea? Yinling took a step forward and ran her jade-like hands through her smooth and soft hair. She was wearing a long silver dress that wrapped around her graceful body. As the princess of the Silver Royal Family, one of the top royal families, Yinling was very confident in her own charm. Since even Fei Qingxue could taste immortal tea, she should be able to as well. Who do you think you are? Jun Xiaoyaro didn't even look at her. Yinling's beautiful face froze, and she instantly became extremely embarrassed. Chapter 922. Yinling's mind was a little numb. She was used to everyone's flattery and praise. This was the first time she had been humiliated like this. She was extremely ashamed and angry, and her beautiful eyes were burning with anger. Everyone, are you willing to accept this? Yinling looked at the prodigies of the royal moth demon race and the golden sheep race. Of course not. He still has some immortal spirit leaves. We can join forces and snatch them, Yinling said. Jun Xiaoyao's eeriness had indeed stunned a bunch of people. However, if they joined forces, they might succeed. Are we going to join forces? That's a little. The royal moth demon prodigy was stunned. Each of them had a good reputation and were prodigies who dominated a region. Now, they actually had to join forces to deal with one person. That was beneath their dignity. This person is indeed strange. If we don't join forces, it's indeed difficult to deal with him, the golden sheep race prodigy said. Just as they were communicating with their divine wills, Jun Xiaoyaro had already taken out a heavenly immortal fruit. After drinking the immortal tea, it was naturally time to taste the immortal fruit. Seeing this scene, the prodigies present could no longer bear it. The feeling of watching someone else obtain a great opportunity was too uncomfortable. Moreover, although the immortal tea was precious, it was still inferior to the heavenly immortal fruit. Rumor had it that a heavenly immortal fruit could allow one to advance by a realm and had various benefits. Seeing that Jun Xiaoyaro was about to eat the heavenly immortal fruit, no one could remain calm. They were afraid that Jun Xiaoyaro would directly finish all 5 heavenly immortal fruits like he was drinking the immortal tea. One had to know that the heavenly immortal fruit only bore fruit once every 1,000 years. It was too precious. If Jun Xiaoyaro finished eating it, they would have to wait another 1,000 years. Who could stand that? Stop. A cold voice suddenly sounded. It was from Wu Kuan. I'm here on Master's orders. In addition to helping Miss Qianqian obtain a heavenly immortal fruit, Master also needs a heavenly immortal fruit. So if you know what's good for you, hand over 3 heavenly immortal fruits, Wu Kuan said. The reason why there was an extra one was naturally because he wanted one too. Jun Xiaoyao's hand gesture paused. It wasn't because he was afraid of Wu Kuan. Instead, he felt that it was a little noisy. Although it's a fly, it's always noisy and annoying. As Jun Xiaoyaro spoke, he waved his hand. The 5 heavenly immortal fruits were placed on the stone table. Come at me together. The heavenly immortal fruit is right here. If you can get it, that's your ability, Jun Xiaoyaro said indifferently. The reason he roamed the other side was also because he wanted to meet the foreign experts. He was used to being invincible in the 9 heavens immortal realm. In the other side, he naturally had to sweep through everything. He's too arrogant. Upon hearing Jun Xiaoyao's words, the faces of all the royal prodigies present darkened. One person challenging all of them. This was simply looking down on all of them. Attack together, kill. The group of sky prides surrounded Jun Xiaoyao. Among them, the moth demon royal prodigy's moth wings trembled behind his back as numerous runes appeared. They turned into balls of blazing fire and fell towards Jun Xiaoyao. This was the moth devil royal race's ability, moth devil heavenly fire. Jun Xiaoyao raised his eyelids indifferently. It was just a flick of his finger. A wisp of energy burst out and pierced through the void. The moth demon royal prodigy's head was pierced through by this wisp of energy, and then exploded, instantly dying. At this moment, the surrounding geniuses of the royal families turned pale with fright. The moth demon royal prodigy was extremely powerful. However, he was still killed by Jun Xiaoyao with a flick of his finger. His strength made people's hearts turn cold. Don't be afraid. Attack together. The golden sheep race's prodigy shouted loudly. He muttered something in his mouth, and the 2 golden horns on his forehead fell off. They were like 2 golden heavenly swords, swallowing and emitting a sharp aura that could cut the sky and the earth. This was the golden sheep race's peerless ability, a great killing weapon. It was not only a part of their body, but also a weapon that they had been refining since they were young. Its power was peerless. The 2 golden heavenly swords slashed down at Jun Xiaoyao's head, and it was as if they could cut a mountain in half. However, just as the heavenly swords were about to reach Jun Xiaoyao, an inexplicable force appeared and destroyed the peerless sword aura. Only the 2 swords were left, and they slashed down powerlessly. Jun Xiaoyao raised his hand and caught the 2 heavenly swords with 2 fingers. This is impossible. The golden sheep race's prodigy shouted in disbelief. What kind of divine power was this? How can this be? Wu Kuan was slightly shocked. This ability made him think of a race. It wasn't just him. The old antiques in the sky dome above, as well as a few foreign experts whose horizons were rather deep, all thought of a certain clan. A cracking sound was heard. Jun Xiaoyao used a bit of force with 2 fingers and crushed the 2 heavenly swords formed by the golden horns. Spurt. The golden sheep race's prodigy spat out a mouthful of blood. His forehead cracked, and his primordial spirit was about to shatter. These two heavenly swords were his natal weapons. It could be said that most of the Golden Sheep race's divine power was in these two heavenly swords. Now that Jun Xiaoyaro had easily crushed these two heavenly swords, the Golden Sheep race's prodigy was immediately severely injured, and his combat power was almost completely destroyed. Everyone, let's attack together. Do you think he can defeat all of us? Yinling also spoke. With the princess of the top royal race taking the lead, the other royal race's prodigies also attacked at the same time. In an instant, all kinds of powerful divine powers and top-tier forbidden arts were cast. They were all well-known great methods of the other side, their power extremely great. The place instantly boiled, as if countless stars had exploded, and destructive waves surged toward Jun Xiaoyaro. Jun Xiaoyaro was still calm. All the divine power waves turned into nothingness in front of Jun Xiaoyaro. How can? All the royal race's prodigies opened their mouths and eyes wide. This is impossible. Yinling also lost her composure and couldn't maintain her ladylike demeanor. At this moment, a solemn voice sounded. What's your relationship with the Morgia race? The one who spoke was the prodigy of the quasi-emperor race, the exotic Taoist race. Hearing this, many of the royal race's prodigies revealed looks of shock. The Morgia race is rumored to be a peerless imperial race. They are invulnerable to all dharmic powers and have dharmic powers immunity, some of the overlord race's prodigies exclaimed. The Morgia race was one of the overlord races of the overlord race. There weren't many of them, but every one of them was extremely powerful. Whether it was the sleeping younger generation or the older generation, they were all invincible among their peers. Moreover, the most distinctive characteristic of this imperial race was that they were born with dharmic powers immunity. The effects of dharmic powers differed according to one's strength. However, the only thing that was certain was that the ability to be invulnerable to all dharmic powers and dharmic powers immunity was unique to this race's bloodline. It was almost impossible for other living beings to have it. That's right, what that person used just now did seem to be the effect of dharmic powers immunity. No wonder he's so powerful. I didn't expect him to really be a descendant of an immortal emperor race. The Morgia race is extremely rare and mysterious. I didn't expect a descendant to appear in the world now. In an instant, all kinds of noisy discussions sounded. Many of the royal race's prodigies came to a realization. If he was a descendant of an immortal emperor race, then everything made sense. It was not impossible for him to defeat them. However, in the sky, a few old antiques were puzzled. Although it seems to be an ability of the Morgia race, is this child really from that race? I've never heard of any activity from that race. It wasn't just these old antiques who were doubtful. Wu Kuan also stood out and said, the descendants of the imperial race are high and mighty. They don't easily travel the world. How could they be like you? Moreover, my master also knows that among the Morgia race's prodigies, there doesn't seem to be someone like you. Could it be that you stole that ability from somewhere, or is it similar? If you don't explain it clearly today, I'm afraid that the Morgia race will find trouble with you in the future. They won't allow this ability to be leaked to outsiders. Wu Kuan's eyes were sharp, as if he wanted to see through Jun Xiaoyaro. Jun Xiaoyaro laughed when he heard that. His dharmic powers immunity ability was obtained through signing in. What did it have to do with the Morgia race? So what if they are from the Morgia race? Are they qualified to be compared to my bloodline? Jun Xiaoyaro said coldly, his tone full of contempt. Chapter 923. So what if he was from a foreign immortal emperor clan? So what if he was from the ancient Morgia clan? No matter how ancient or powerful his bloodline was. Compared to the Jun family that had existed for countless eras, how could they compare? In terms of history, origin, and foundation, they had a long history. The Jun family of the immortal domain was not weaker than any of the foreign immortal emperor clans. Hearing Jun Xiaoyao's words, countless foreign creatures widened their eyes, their expressions petrified. Looking down on an immortal emperor clan in public. This courage was greater than the heavens. You! How dare you? Wu Kuan shouted, but his eyes revealed a trace of joy. This time, they were completely sure that Jun Xiaoyaro was not from the Morgia clan. If he did not have a background, Then it would be easy to deal with him. Haha, what an arrogant person. Since he's not from the Morgia clan, then it doesn't matter if I kill him, right? The exotic Taoist race's prodigy sneered and directly attacked. The aura of a Saint Lord was released. Seeing the quasi-emperor prodigy attack, the king race prodigies present were all refreshed. They did not believe that even a Saint Lord-level quasi-emperor prodigy could not defeat Jun Xiaoyao. Jun Xiaoyao revealed a cold smile. He was indeed not from the Morgia clan. However, his background was even more terrifying than the Morgia clan. However, this was the foreign domain, so he could not reveal his true background and origin. Otherwise, if it was the immortal domain, Jun Xiaoyao did not need to do anything. Just standing there was enough to make countless people bow their heads and submit. Seeing the exotic Taoist race's prodigy charge over, Jun Xiaoyao simply threw out a punch. The void trembled like a piece of paper, and then shattered. Poochie. The arm of the exotic Taoist race's prodigy directly exploded, blood and bones flying everywhere. Half of his body was shattered, and his primordial spirit shook violently, almost splitting apart. He sucked in a breath of air, incomparably shocked. His pair of black hole-like eyes reflected the light of horror. It was simple, without any fancy tricks, and there was not even any magic power support. Just a punch with the physical body alone was enough to seriously injure him. What kind of method was this? Not only him, but all the surrounding foreign prodigies also felt their scalps go numb. Which corner did this monster come out of? Wow, I didn't expect Sir to be so strong. Chun Chun covered her mouth in astonishment. Although she knew that Jun Xiaoyao was very strong, she did not expect him to be this strong. Of course. You're no ordinary person. Fei Qingxue felt that it was only natural. After all, he was the god of fate and creation. How could his spokesperson in the human world be mediocre? Let me take you on. On the other side, a swift shadow swept toward Jun Xiaoyao. He was a prodigy of the Snake Clan. His entire body was golden as if he was made of Tao Tribulation gold. There was a pair of flesh wings on his ribs. Although this tribe was called the Snake Tribe, their strength was not much weaker than the Evil Dragon Tribe. The snake hissed and roared. His voice could split heaven and earth and shatter one's soul. On the other hand, Jun Xiaoyao's expression was calm as the light of chaos surged in his eyes. Along with the power of the Three Lives Essence Soul, a wave of divine soul energy pierced through the void like a sharp sword and pierced toward the Snake Clan prodigy. Poochie. The sounding snake let out a sharp hiss. Its forehead was cracked and bleeding. Ah! The sounding snake let out a long hiss as golden light surged on the surface of its body. It instantly became as big as a mountain. This was the true size of the sounding snake. It was like a golden true dragon. The aura it exuded made many of the surrounding royal prodigies feel suffocated. Their hearts felt as if they were being crushed by a mountain. This is the power of a quasi-emperor prodigy, a royal prodigy exclaimed. On the other side, the exotic Taoist prodigy opened his mouth and roared. A black hole appeared and the essence of heaven and earth surged into it. His injuries also began to recover quickly. This tribe had some of the immemorial Taotia's bloodline and could devour all things. Again, the exotic Taoist prodigy roared as a terrifying black hole appeared in front of him. It was as if it could devour and refine all things. Jun Xiaoyao shook his head slightly. He had used the devouring power too much. Not only did he cultivate the devouring demonic technique, but he had also condensed the devouring immortal qi. Jun Xiaoyao reached out his hand and a rune light surged in his hand. With a simple palm strike, he dissolved the black hole. Then, he hit the exotic Taoist prodigy with his palm. Bang! This time, the exotic Taoist prodigy did not even have the chance to recover. His physical body exploded like a balloon and his primordial spirit cracked and shattered together with it. A quasi-emperor prodigy had fallen. And you, Jun Xiaoyao turned to look at the sounding snake and used his finger as a sword to slash down. Sounding snake moves the 9 heavens. The sounding snake roared and its snake body moved. With a swing of its tail, it cracked the void and caused the space to collapse. Jun Xiaoyao's physical body was not affected at all. He used his sword finger. The sound of a sharp blade piercing into flesh was heard. Blood splattered. The sounding snake's huge tail was directly cut off and blood spurted out like a waterfall. Jun Xiaoyaro pointed his finger again. A dazzling golden sword light burst out from his finger as if it contained the sharpness to cut through the sky. One of the 5 great divine arts, the heaven-slashing art. Whoosh! A bloody line appeared on the sounding snake's body and then it was directly split into 2. Its primordial spirit was shattered and it couldn't be more dead. Then, Jun Xiaoyaro turned his gaze to Yinling again and was about to point his finger. Yinling's face instantly turned as pale as paper. Enough, Wu Kuan, let's attack together. We can't let this kid do anything anymore. Kong Qianqian couldn't stand it anymore. If they didn't attack now, they would all be killed by Jun Xiaoyaro. This person was too terrifying. He even killed the quasi-emperor prodigy without caring about the consequences. Kong Qianqian was really a little scared. If she couldn't get rid of Jun Xiaoyaro today, she would always have a knot in her heart. She couldn't sleep and eat well after becoming enemies with such a mysterious and strange person. This kid will definitely die today. Wu Kuan snorted coldly and exuded the aura of a quasi-supreme. He could be said to be the creature with the highest cultivation level here apart from those old antiques. Quasi-supreme. Yinling's beautiful eyes revealed a touch of joy after surviving a disaster. A quasi-supreme should be able to suppress Jun Xiaoyaro. However, in the next moment, her vision turned black. It was as if the sky had collapsed. What? Yinling was stunned. She saw the shocked expressions of Kong Qianqian, Wu Kuan, and the other royal prodigies. She was a little confused. Turning her head, she saw a giant chaotic handprint that was like a part of the sky, grabbing at her. Bang! The giant chaotic handprint pressed down and directly slapped Yinling to death. The princess of a top royal family also died. Dead silence. This time, there was complete silence. Not a single sound could be heard. Because at this moment, Jun Xiaoyaro also exuded the aura of a quasi-supreme. Moreover, there were wisps of chaotic qi that wrapped around his body like a waterfall. In contrast, Jun Xiaoyaro was like an awakened king of chaos. The eye of chaos split heaven and earth, and the chaotic qi suppressed the sky. The entire mountain began to tremble, as if it couldn't withstand the full power of Jun Xiaoyao's aura. Now, do you want to compete? Jun Xiaoyaro looked at Wu Kuan. Drip. A drop of sweat fell from the tip of Wu Kuan's nose. He found that his legs were trembling unconsciously. Chaos. Chaos. Chaos body? Wu Kuan stuttered, as if his brain had short-circuited and he felt a chill all over his body. This kind of heaven-defying monstrous physique that was ranked in the top 10 of the 3,000 physiques actually appeared in front of him alive. What a ghost. Chapter 924. Wu Kuan could not imagine how strong the chaos flesh of a pseudo-9 heaven supreme was. Even his master, Li Jiuyi, would have to be extremely cautious, let alone him. Wu Kuan's heart pounded heavily as if a giant hand was grabbing it tightly. He was having a hard time catching his breath. His pride as a living being of a monarch tribe was shattered into pieces before the chaos flesh. It was the chaos flesh that even the immortal monarch tribes were drooling over. As for Kong Qianqian, her figure stiffened. She was already petrified. Her mind was still in a daze. The chaos flesh of a pseudo-9 heavens supreme, how is this possible? Kong Qianqian's eyes were filled with disbelief. In addition to Wu Kuan, Kong Qianqian, every creature of the foreign realm was petrified. Previously, they all thought Jun Xiaoyaro was mysterious and unfathomable. However, Jun Xiaoyaro had fully unleashed his aura and cultivation. The pseudo-9 heavens supreme realm and the chaos flesh. It was almost an unbeatable combination among the younger generation. Everyone's mouths went dry. Their hearts were greatly impacted. The old antiques in the sky were especially shocked. They already had a hunch in their hearts, but they were not too sure. However, they finally confirmed it after witnessing it with their own eyes. The mysterious young man in a white outfit with terrifying strength, it turned out to be the legendary Chaos Flesh. This was a huge matter. The appearance of the Chaos Flesh was enough to stir a great storm in both the 9 heavens immortal realm and the foreign realm. The reason for that was because this type of body constitution was simply too powerful and too rare. There might not even be one in an era. In other words, if one of the two realms had a chaos flesh, it would surely become a thorn in the other realm's flesh. The chaos flesh was extremely talented. It had the potential to achieve the martial monarch realm without needing any fortunate encounters. It would at least become a martial monarch or an immortal emperor in the future. And now, a living chaos flesh had appeared in front of them. How could they not be astounded? Heavens, it's really the aura, the chaos flesh, the unparalleled chaos flesh. An old antique blurted out in a trembling voice. The birth of a primal chaos body is a major event in our world. Another old antique sighed. The foreign realm had a chaos flesh when the two realms were in conflict with one another. This was simply a foreign land's luck. After all, if a chaotic body became an immortal king, his strength would be extremely terrifying. Ordinary people of the same level as him were definitely not his match. You actually have the primal chaos body? The Wukuan people were all dumbfounded, and a chill rose from their throats. Previously, he had thought that Jun Xiaoyaro had no background and could be killed at will. But now, F***ck, it's actually a chaotic body. Let's not talk about whether or not he could kill him. Even if he could, he wouldn't dare to. Jun Xiaoyaro only needed to ask to join a certain clan. Even the immortal imperial clans would fight to the death to invite him to join them. After all, the value of the chaos body was not worth mentioning. Just his primal chaos bloodline alone was invaluable. If he joined forces with those immortal emperor bloodlines, he might be able to nurture a descendant with an invincible bloodline. It could be said that Jun Xiaoyaro was now in high demand. No matter how great of a price the immortal emperor clans paid, they would do their best to invite him. At this moment, Wu Kuan's face was pale, his scalp was numb, and he was trembling. Kong Qianqian could no longer maintain her cool demeanor. Her entire body was numb. Her good-for-nothing cousin had offended someone with a chaotic physique. Even if he had no background, he was not someone that anyone could provoke. Damn it, even when he's dead, he still has to implicate me. Kong Qianqian cursed in her heart, and her beautiful face was extremely pale. Her heart was now filled with deep regret. If she had known that Jun Xiaoyaro had the primal chaos body, she definitely wouldn't have dared to provoke him. Sir, you actually have the primal chaos body? Chun Chun was surprised, and her big bright eyes were wide open. She was extremely shocked. She didn't know what kind of body Jun Xiaoyaro had before. Fei Qingxue also took a deep breath, and her heart was shaken. However, on second thought, she felt relieved. Sir, you are indeed the spokesperson of the god of fate and creation in the mortal world. Even your body is the primal chaos body. At this moment, Fei Qingxue's faith in the god of fate and creation became even more firm. If even the god envoy had the primal chaos body, then how strong was this god? Even the elders of the icy spirit royal family who came with him were dumbfounded. They finally understood why Fei Qingxue told them not to worry. What was there to worry about when he only had the primal chaos body? Haha, we were blind. I didn't expect this young master to have the primal chaos body. Yeah, we worried for nothing. The ice spirit royal elders looked at each other and shook their heads with bitter smiles. They felt that their previous behavior was a bit ridiculous. Make your move. Jun Xiaoyaro put one hand behind his back and looked at Wu Kuan. The only one present who was qualified to make a move was Wu Kuan. Jun Xiaoyaro was still a little interested in the infernal emperor family. Wu Kuan's face turned green as if he had eaten a fly. If it was someone else who provoked him like this, he would have already made his move. However, facing the primal chaos body, no one would not be afraid. Wu Kuan, Kong Qianqian shouted from the side. She was also a little annoyed. Since they had already offended him, they could only think of a way to solve this troublesome problem. It seems that the infernal emperor family is just SOSO. Jun Xiaoyaro sighed slightly. Enough. Even if you have the primal chaos body, you can't offend the emperor family's prestige. Wu Kuan let out a long roar and made his move. If he did not make a move, he would become a joke. Boom. It had to be said that when a quasi-supreme attacked, the aura was different. All kinds of Tao patterns surged between heaven and earth. Wu Kuan did not dare to underestimate Jun Xiaoyaro at all. He immediately used the Infernal Emperor bloodline ability. He stretched out a hand. A crack appeared in his palm and then split open. An eyeball appeared in his palm. It's the Infernal Emperor family's evil eye. Everyone exclaimed. They did not expect Wu Kuan to use the Infernal Emperor bloodline ability as soon as he attacked. It was just like the Morgia family's signature ability, which was invulnerability and magical immunity. The Infernal Emperor family naturally had their own bloodline ability, which was the so-called Infernal Eye. Anyone with the Infernal Emperor family's bloodline would have an evil eye in their palm, which had all kinds of unbelievably powerful abilities. Legend had it that when the Infernal Evil Eye appeared, heaven and earth would be destroyed, and all things would be silent. Infernal Eye, Evil Eye binding. Wu Kuan shouted loudly. The Infernal Eye in his palm emitted a misty black light. This was one of his trump cards. It could bind the opponent's primordial spirit, freeze it, and then be at his mercy. This move could be said to be successful in battle. It had helped Wu Kuan kill countless opponents. If caught off guard, even a quasi-supreme of the same level would be frozen for a few breaths. And this time was more than enough to kill the enemy. Jun Xiaoyao immediately felt that an invisible force was imprisoning his primordial spirit like chains, trying to freeze it. Interesting. Jun Xiaoyao smiled faintly. He traveled to the foreign lands to gather all kinds of information. Collecting information about the abilities of these foreign emperor families was also part of it. Seeing Jun Xiaoyao standing still, Wu Kuan was overjoyed and directly struck out with his palm. So what if you have the chaotic body? You will still be defeated by me, but in the next moment. Jun Xiaoyao made his move. Nothing out of the ordinary happened as he threw out a palm attack, causing chaotic qi to surge like an ocean. Fart. Wu Kuan spat out blood. Half of his body cracked, and his bones shattered. He was incomparably shocked, and his scalp went numb. He looked at Jun Xiaoyao in disbelief. You're just distracted to comprehend the mysteries of this move. Do you really think you can restrain me? Jun Xiaoyao's tone was indifferent. He condensed the chaotic palm print again and slammed it down at Wu Kuan, about to kill him. Wu Kuan was shocked. His Dao heart was about to collapse. He hurriedly took out a jade slip and crushed it. Boom. Black light shot into the sky, and pressure filled the air. A blurry young figure appeared, carrying a powerful aura. His voice was incomparably cold. How dare you touch my people? I have to say, you are very bold. Seeing this illusory figure, everyone fell silent. It's the peerless genius of the Infernal Emperor family, Li Jiuyi. Chapter 925. Li Jiuyi of the Infernal Imperial clan was famous in the foreign realm. He was one of the leading figures of the younger generation and was also one of the top 3 heavenly kings in terms of combat strength. It was rumored that he had the Infernal Evil Eye, which showed signs of atavism. He had all kinds of powerful and terrifying abilities. There was a wisp of Li Jiuyi's soul in the jade slip that Wu Kuan crushed. As long as one crushed the jade slip at a critical moment, Li Jiuyi's primordial spirit would appear. Generally speaking, as long as it was in the foreign realm, most people would give Li Jiuyi face. Therefore, this was also Wu Kuan's last life-saving method. I'll give you a chance to come to the Infernal Imperial clan and beg for forgiveness. You can also, before Li Jiuyi's primordial spirit finished speaking, Jun Xiaoyao waved his hand casually, and chaotic qi surged. It directly destroyed Li Jiuyi's primordial spirit. All of the living beings were dumbstruck, extremely astonished. Wu Kuan was also stunned, and his breathing almost stopped. In the foreign realm, even immortal emperor creatures would give face to his master. However, Jun Xiaoyao did not care at all and directly destroyed Li Jiuyi's primordial spirit, not even letting him finish his words. A wisp of primordial spirit is not qualified to talk to me, Jun Xiaoyao said coldly. Since when could a wisp of primordial spirit speak wantonly in front of him? You, even if you have the chaotic body, you can't provoke the Infernal Imperial clan. Wu Kuan stepped back, appearing fierce but cowardly. Kong Qianqian also said with a pale face. Now, You have already killed many royal clans and quasi-emperor clans. If you kill us, the Infernal Imperial clan and the Black Peacock Royal clan will not let you go." After sensing Zhun Xiaoyao's killing intent, Kong Qianqian could only use her background. After all, they could not defeat him, and their background was the only thing they could rely on. Even the old antiques in the sky tried to persuade him in a friendly manner. "Little friend, don't go too far. You have already offended many royal clans and quasi-emperor clans. You can't offend the real emperor clans. That's right, you have the chaotic body and unlimited talent. You don't have to make so many enemies for yourself." These old antiques were all expressing their goodwill and wanted to establish good karma with Zhun Xiaoyao. After all, Zhun Xiaoyao had the chaotic body with limitless potential. When Wu Kuan saw this, his panicked expression also calmed down. There was a hint of relief in his eyes. He rejoiced that he was someone from the Emperor clan. The corners of his mouth curled up into a faint mocking smile. Of course, he was not foolish enough to provoke Zhun Xiaoyao, so he simply said, "You've seen the current situation. Your chaotic body is indeed strong, but so what? You still can't offend us monarch clans. How about this, hand over the 5 heavenly immortal fruits, and perhaps Master won't pursue the matter of offending him." Kong Qianqian regained her composure and said, "Fine. Hand over the heavenly immortal fruit and immortal spirit leaf and I'll forget about my cousin's death." Kong Qianqian was also unwilling to become enemies with the primal chaos body because of Kong Xiong. That would be too unwise. Now that they could resolve their grudges and still gain benefits, why not? Wu Kuan and Kong Qianqian both thought that they had already expressed their goodwill and Zhun Xiaoyao should compromise. Hearing this, Zhun Xiaoyao didn't say anything. Chun Chun, who was beside him, widened her eyes and glared angrily. Even she was angry. Just as Chun Chun was about to scold them, Zhun Xiaoyao said calmly, "So, you're bullying me because I don't have a background?" Wu Kuan smiled and didn't comment. Zhun Xiaoyao also smiled. As one of the noblest people in Zhoutian Shidi, it was Zhun Xiaoyao's first time experiencing being called a person without a background. Was this what it meant to be bullied by dogs? Although you have the chaotic body, you still have to understand the rules of our world. How about this, if you hand over the heavenly immortal fruits, I might let you join the Black Peacock Royal clan or the Infernal clan. Kong Qianqian also regained her cool and elegant demeanor. So what if he had the chaotic body? So what if his talent was heaven-defying? Without a background, he had no confidence. Furthermore, it was hard to say when he would die. Chun Chun and Fei Qingxue were furious when they heard this. However, to everyone's surprise, Zhun Xiaoyao's expression was very calm, without the slightest trace of anger. He nodded faintly and said, "That's right. You're right. It's good that you understand." A smile appeared on Kong Qianqian's lips. In the next moment, the smile on her lips froze. Zhun Xiaoyao's lips were muttering, as if he was chanting something. "Hey, what is that chaotic body doing?" Many of the foreign creatures looked puzzled. Wu Kuan and Kong Qianqian were even more puzzled. Only Fei Qingxue seemed to have thought of something, and there was a hint of unprecedented excitement in her beautiful eyes. Could it be, boom? Suddenly, the world changed color, and the universe shook. Above the sky, it was as if there were chaotic waves crashing. The galaxy shifted, and all directions trembled. Under everyone's shocked gazes. Above the firmament, light surged and shone. In that void, an incomparably huge crack appeared, as if a corner of the universe was lifted. And in that giant universe crack, a blurry and terrifying demonic figure sat cross-legged in the depths of the universe. It was as if an ancient demon god had revived. A wisp of aura crushed the heavens. An unprecedented terrifying pressure enveloped heaven and earth in all directions. In the entire fallen immortal ridge, all of the foreign creatures were pressed down to the ground by this pressure. Their hearts seemed to be grabbed by a large hand, and their blood vessels were about to burst. That aura made everyone tremble. No, the immortal king. A foreign creature lost his voice and couldn't help but cry out in alarm. The immortal king, the top king of the foreign world, known as an immortal and indestructible existence. If an immortal king appeared in a clan, the entire clan could become a quasi-emperor clan. And now, they saw a true immortal king. Even if it was just a projection, it was enough to make everyone tremble. Even the few old antiques in the sky fell to the ground, kneeling on the ground. Only now did they realize that Jun Xiaoyaro should have been silently chanting the true name of the immortal king just now. This led to the descent of the immortal king's projection. At this moment, all of the foreign creatures knelt down, their minds shaken, their scalps turning numb. They cried out in unison, "We pay our respects to the immortal king." All of the foreign creatures knelt down piously, their bodies trembling. As for Wu Kuan and Kong Qianqian, they had long been suppressed by that wisp of aura, pressed down to the ground. Right now, they were like two quails, shivering endlessly, completely terrified. How is this possible? Behind him stands an immortal king. Wu Kuan's face was even more deathly pale than before, as if he was grieving for his parents. Impossible. Just which bloodline of emperor clan did he come from? Kong Qianqian's cold and elegant temperament disappeared once more. Right now, she was simply like a dead person, her face lacking color, inwardly terrified. They previously bullied Jun Xiaoyaro because he didn't have any background. In the end, the other party silently chanted his true name, directly producing an immortal king. Chapter 926. At this moment, everyone knelt down. Even Chun Chun and Fei Qingxue knelt down. In the foreign realm, the immortal kings were the heavens, the gods, and the law. No one dared to face the immortal kings without kneeling. Only Jun Xiaoyaro stood with his hands behind his back, leaning against the mysterious and blurry immortal king. His aura was otherworldly. "Now, do I have the right to kill you?" Jun Xiaoyaro said indifferently. This. Wu Kuan's courage was shattered, and he couldn't speak at all. His background as an infernal clan member was useless. It was because the infernal clan wouldn't go against a chaotic body and an immortal king for a servant like him. Jun Xiaoyaro couldn't be bothered to delay. He struck out with his palm, and chaotic energy poured down like a waterfall, washing through the void. Pu. Wu Kuan was instantly drowned by the chaotic energy. His physical body and primordial spirit shattered, and he couldn't be more dead. The blood that splattered out landed on Kong Qianqian's body. Her fair and cold beautiful face was covered in viscous blood that dripped down bit by bit, and it caused her Dao heart to collapse completely. She crawled toward Jun Xiaoyaro like a bitch, tears and snot flowing down her cold face. How beautiful she was before was how miserable she was now. "Young master, please spare me. Qianqian is willing to be a slave. You can do whatever you want to me. You can ravage me however you want, just don't kill me." Kong Qianqian crawled toward Jun Xiaoyaro and begged. Seeing this scene, the corners of all the foreign realm beings' mouths twitched. Kong Qianqian was the infernal imperial clan's prodigy, Li Jiuyi's concubine. Now, she was crawling toward Jun Xiaoyaro like a bitch, begging for mercy. This was 2F** king despicable. Even Li Jiuyi's reputation would be tarnished. Jun Xiaoyaro couldn't even be bothered to look at Kong Qianqian. He casually flicked his finger. A wisp of chaotic energy shot toward Kong Qianqian, causing her head and primordial spirit to explode. Only her headless body was left on the ground. Then, Jun Xiaoyao's eyes swept across the place. On this mountain peak, all the royal prodigies who had made a move against him or made a fuss about it were there. One by one, their heads exploded. Blood mist filled the sky, and broken bones covered the ground. In the end, only Jun Xiaoyaro, Chun Chun, and Fei Qingxue were left on the mountain peak. Jun Xiaoyaro didn't feel the slightest bit of pressure when killing these foreign prodigies. He even wanted to kill two more. Seeing this, all the living beings lowered their heads and shivered. They didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. Grim Reaper, Demon King, these words appeared in everyone's minds. This newly born chaotic physique had no scruples in doing things. He was simply a god of death. Even those old antiques who had advised Jun Xiaoyaro to stop before going too far wisely chose to shut up now. With an immortal king backing him up, who still dared to speak out of turn. The entire place was as silent as cicadas in winter. A smile appeared in Jun Xiaoyao's eyes when he saw that. He didn't expect the heaven illuminating technique to be so useful in scaring people. The projection in the air was none other than Jun Xiaoyao, who had projected the evil will of the gods using the light of the heavens. Jun Xiaoyao also knew that no one present dared to investigate carefully. After all, the foreign realm worshipped the law of the jungle. They didn't dare to offend the dignity of an immortal king at all. There was no need to talk about investigating it in detail. However, it didn't matter even if someone investigated. Jun Xiaoyao wasn't afraid. They would only find a mysterious mass of nothingness. Behind Jun Xiaoyao, Chun was extremely surprised. She didn't expect Jun Xiaoyao to have such a background. At the same time, she looked at Jun Xiaoyao, who had killed everyone. Chun didn't think that Jun Xiaoyao was cruel. Instead, her big eyes revealed a look of admiration. Wasn't this the great hero she had been looking for? Chun had also fantasized that her lover would make the world his enemy and kill everything for her. There was no doubt that Jun Xiaoyao was the one who fit her fantasy the best. Mysterious, powerful, and handsome. However, he liked to tease her and call her Tiny Tot occasionally. At this moment, Chuan's heart was a little numb. Beside her, Fei Qingshue's beautiful eyes were filled with devotion and fanaticism. She looked at the kneeling creatures and sneered in her heart. He's just a servant of the great god of fate and creation, and you're already so scared. If the real god of fate and creation descends, how shocked will you be? Fei Qingxue was already looking forward to the moment when the god of fate and creation truly appeared. Presumably, the entire foreign realm would be shaken. As for the Ice Spirit royal family elders, they were extremely happy while they were shocked. I didn't expect this white-robed man to have such a great background. It seems that we were blind. That's right. It's misfortune to be able to interact with such a person. The Ice Spirit royal family elders were completely relieved. Next, after dealing with the flies, Jun Xiaoyao also prepared to eat the heavenly immortal fruit. A pair of eyes were glued to him. Take it. Jun Xiaoyao shook his head and threw a heavenly immortal fruit to Chun. Chun was his little tool, so he still needed to feed her. Thank you, sir. Chun took the heavenly immortal fruit and said in a sweet voice. Then, she eagerly took a big bite. There was a hint of envy in Fei Qingshue's beautiful eyes, but she was very obedient and tactful. She lowered her head slightly and was very respectful. Qingxue, you too. Jun Xiaoyao also gave a heavenly immortal fruit to Fei Qingxue. Fei Qingxue immediately raised her head. Her beautiful face was full of flattery. She really didn't expect this. The fact that Jun Xiaoyao was able to give her a cup of celestial tea was already a huge favor. Heavenly immortal fruit was much more precious than immortal tea. Even if Jun Xiaoyao didn't give it to her, Fei Qingxue wouldn't have any complaints. Sir, this is too precious. Fei Qingxue was a little helpless. Take it. Jun Xiaoyao smiled faintly. Fei Qingxue was the daughter of Providence that he had personally created. She was also a chess piece that he had planted in the royal class. In the future, he would still need to rely on her to spread his teachings among the royal class. Therefore, he couldn't treat her unfairly. Thank you, sir. Fei Qingxue took the heavenly immortal fruit, her snow-white and beautiful face blushing. Her feelings toward Jun Xiaoyao were mainly due to her devout respect and reverence. But now, this feeling was mixed with a trace of inexplicable emotion. The way she looked at Jun Xiaoyao was filled with admiration, as well as a hint of adoration. Of course, Fei Qingxue was very self-aware. She knew that she wasn't good enough for Jun Xiaoyao, so she didn't show it. But Jun Xiaoyao saw it all and just smiled. Fei Qingxue liked him, and this was even better. She could work for him wholeheartedly. The few elders of the Ice Spirit royal family were overjoyed for Fei Qingxue. They felt that she had been hit by a pie that fell from the sky. Not only could she get to know the mysterious and terrifying chaotic body, but she could also taste immortal tea and immortal fruits. If our Ice Spirit royal family can cling to this young master's thigh. The Ice Spirit royal family elder's heart became lively. This was a chaotic body, and there was a mysterious and powerful immortal king behind him. If he grew up in the future, A casual word from him could make the Ice Spirit royal family stand tall. Not to mention being bullied by the Firestone royal family. All the otherworldly creatures present had various thoughts in their minds. Jun Xiaoyaro picked up the remaining 3 heavenly immortal fruits and ate them directly. Young friend, heavenly immortal fruits aren't eaten like this. An old antique couldn't help but shout. Because the heavenly immortal fruits were too effective, most of them were used to make pills and medicine to neutralize the medicinal effects. If one's physique wasn't good enough, one might explode after eating one. In the end, Jun Xiaoyao ate all 3 heavenly immortal fruits one after another. Boom! An extremely majestic energy erupted from Jun Xiaoyao's body. Each heavenly immortal fruit contained the essence of the heavenly immortal tree and contained a trace of immortal blood. Just the energy alone was enough to raise one's cultivation level. Not to mention, the heavenly immortal fruits also contained all kinds of Tao Law divine essence, which was also a priceless item. Let me see how much my strength will increase with 7 cups of immortal tea and 3 heavenly immortal fruits. Jun Xiaoyaro was curious. Chapter 927. Immortal mist surged around Jun Xiaoyao's body, and spiritual light was dense. There was also chaotic mist surging like waves. There were also all kinds of shocking phenomena that appeared. Flowers fell from the sky, golden lotuses bloomed from the ground, true dragons emerged from the sea, and divine phoenixes struck the sky. There were also mountains, rivers, seas, the sun, the moon, and stars that appeared. It was extremely mysterious and complicated. Jun Xiaoyaro felt that the 3 heavenly immortal fruits in his body had turned into a majestic power that surged like a tide. If it were other ordinary people, they wouldn't be able to withstand it. Their bodies would expand and explode. However, Jun Xiaoyaro wouldn't do that. After all, his current physique was the same as the Azure Emperor's, the chaotic physique. Even if it was the previous sacred body of the ancients, Jun Xiaoyaro wouldn't be in any trouble. As expected of the unparalleled chaotic physique. It can't be judged by common sense. Seeing that Jun Xiaoyaro was safe and sound, the few old antiques sighed. After drinking 7 cups of immortal tea and swallowing 3 heavenly immortal fruits, Jun Xiaoyaro acted as if nothing had happened. It could only be said that his physique was too strong and could digest any opportunity at will. I can imagine that our world will stir up another storm because of this chaotic physique, an old antique sighed. Yes, those Emperor clan elites, sealed princes, and descendants of the ancient clans will probably not be able to hold back and want to spar with this chaotic physique. I'm looking forward to the scene of this chaotic physique competing with the various Emperor clan elites. When the Ars Academy opens, I wonder if this chaotic physique will be able to compete for the title of God of War. Now it seems that this chaotic physique is invincible. It's very likely. While Jun Xiaoyaro was cultivating, those old antiques whispered to each other. They didn't expect that they would encounter the birth of a chaotic physique during the celestial immortal banquet. It was really beyond their expectations. Rumble. Jun Xiaoyao's body was surrounded by shocking phenomena. Wisps of chaotic qi fell down like a waterfall. As time passed, a wisp of immortal qi appeared on the surface of Jun Xiaoyao's body again. This wisp of immortal qi was chaotic as if it came from the beginning of the universe. Primal chaos immortal energy. This was the 13th strand of immortal energy that Jun Xiaoyaro had condensed. If news of this were to spread, it would shock countless people. At the same time, Jun Xiaoyao's cultivation was also rising steadily. The early stage of quasi-supreme, middle stage quasi-supreme, late stage quasi-supreme, in the end, it rose to quasi-supreme small perfection before it stopped. Jun Xiaoyaro might not be able to break through to the supreme being level. One had to know that in the 7th level of the supreme martial artist realm, any small realm was more difficult to break through than several large realms in the 9th level of the Sage realm combined. Jun Xiaoyao's breakthrough from the early stage of quasi-supreme all the way to small perfection had already caused all the foreign creatures present to become deathly silent. Is this the monstrous talent of the chaotic body? A king race genius was shocked beyond words. His worldview was toppled. He had never thought that cultivation would actually be such a simple matter. They were both humans, But was there really such a huge difference between them? Freak, exceptional great freak. Why do I feel like even those Emperor clan elites and leaders didn't break through so quickly? Be more confident, get rid of that feeling. If it was before, Jun Xiaoyaro had shocked everyone with his ferocious might. Then now, Jun Xiaoyaro had shocked everyone with his monstrous talent. In the foreign land, where the strong were respected, Jun Xiaoyaro was undoubtedly the kind of person who would be endlessly respected. There were already many female creatures present, their beautiful eyes full of splendor. This is the unparalleled chaotic body. If only we could dual cultivate with this young master. There would definitely be great benefits. If we give birth to a monkey for this young master, will the offspring also inherit the chaotic bloodline? You guys are thinking too much. Will the chaotic body take a fancy to you? A few female creatures were chattering and whispering to each other. The foreign land's survival laws were cruel. If a woman's talent and strength were not strong, and her background was not strong, there were only two paths she could take. Otherwise, she would be bullied and slaughtered, just like Fei Qingxue. Otherwise, she would find a powerful Dao companion to be her backer, such as Kong Qianqian. Therefore, in the foreign land, it was not an exaggeration to say that some top experts had 3 palaces and 6 courtyards and 72 concubines. With Jun Xiaoyao's talent and strength, plus the mysterious immortal king behind him, he was definitely the Dao companion of many women's dreams. Not to mention that he was also handsome. TSK, these thirsty women like wolves and tigers, do you really think that Sir will take a fancy to you vulgar women? Chuanchuan's big eyes swept across those female creatures, and her red lips curled in disdain. Little did she know that at this moment, she looked like a little hen protecting her food. Jun Xiaoyaro stood up, feeling the surging power in his body, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Only the improvement of his strength could bring him such joy. Women would only affect his cultivation progress. In addition to my strength increasing to the lesser perfection quasi-supreme and the chaotic immortal qi, I also refined the law fragments from the heavenly immortal fruit. Jun Xiaoyaro felt the law fragments floating in his inner universe. Those fragments were like broken glass, they were all law fragments. If the 9th level of the Saint Realm was to comprehend and sense the various laws of heaven and earth, order and Tao laws, then the 7th level of the Supreme Realm was to try to condense, evolve, and control these laws. Jun Xiaoyaro had 13 strands of immortal qi, which meant that he could condense and control at least 13 laws in the future. This was terrifying to the extreme. A single law was enough to achieve the autark realm. 13 laws. How great would the achievement be? In the ancient saying, there was a supreme realm. It represented 9 as the supreme realm. A supreme realm master who controlled 9 laws was the true supreme realm of the supreme realm. A supreme realm master with 10 laws was already considered to have broken through the supreme realm. What was a supreme realm master with 13 laws? The supreme realm of the supreme realm? If Jun Xiaoyaro condensed 13 laws, he would probably be able to dominate even among the Supreme Realm Masters, and even surpass those Supreme Realm Masters. Jun Xiaoyaro also had a premonition that if he broke through to the Supreme Realm, he would definitely attract an extremely terrifying tribulation. If only there were more law fragments, then it could help me condense the laws faster. Jun Xiaoyaro thought to himself. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the celestial tree. A light flashed in his eyes. Congratulations on the great improvement in your realm. A few old antiques stepped forward and cupped their hands to Jun Xiaoyaro. Their tone was very kind and amiable. Perhaps Jun Xiaoyao's current cultivation realm was still below theirs. But they believed that with the chaotic physique, it wouldn't be long before he could surpass them. This celestial tree is an ownerless object. Jun Xiaoyaro asked. It is indeed an ownerless object, or rather, it is a public object, an old antique replied. He was a little puzzled, not understanding why Jun Xiaoyaro asked this. All right then. Jun Xiaoyaro nodded slightly and walked directly to the celestial tree. As he reached out, the chaotic palm print condensed and grabbed at the celestial tree. This scene left all of the foreign creatures incomparably shocked. Even the old antiques were stunned. They froze on the spot and were speechless for a moment. This The old antiques were speechless. Zhang Xiaoyao actually wanted to uproot the celestial tree and take it for his own use. This shocked everyone. Wasn't he too ruthless? He didn't leave any opportunities for the other geniuses of the heavenly tomb state at all. It was simply too despicable. Chapter 928. Everyone was speechless. They didn't expect Zhang Xiaoyao to do such a thing. Normally, if one were to obtain an opportunity, they would leave some of it behind to bless their descendants. Zhang Xiaoyao, on the other hand, was going to uproot the celestial immortal tree and not leave anything for others. "Young friend, don't be rash," an old antique cried out in surprise. It wasn't that they wanted to stop Zhang Xiaoyao. Zhang Xiaoyao's background was mysterious, and there was an immortal king behind him. They didn't dare to stop him at all. It was because the celestial immortal tree had a wisp of spiritual consciousness. It had the ability to protect itself and was extremely powerful. If Zhang Xiaoyao attacked forcefully, he might be counterattacked by the celestial immortal tree. If the celestial immortal tree counterattacked, the younger generation definitely wouldn't be able to withstand it. The few old antiques didn't want their chaotic physique to die in such a ridiculous way. Sensing the attack of the chaotic giant palm, they wanted to uproot it. The bare branches of the celestial immortal tree trembled, and then suddenly whipped at Zhang Xiaoyao. Like a long dragon, it shattered the void. All kinds of immortal Tao runes were extremely resplendent and powerful. It could be said that even a true supremacy might not be able to block it. Boom! With a loud bang, the dragon-like branches directly shattered the chaotic giant palm, and then whipped at Zhang Xiaoyao. Zhang Xiaoyao had long expected this. He directly summoned the everlasting sword embryo. The everlasting sword embryo was surrounded by chaotic energy. It released an incomparably sharp sword light and collided with the branches of the celestial immortal tree. Clang! The sound of metal colliding was heard. Sparks flew out from the friction, incomparably dazzling. Runes flew out like flames. The branches of the celestial immortal tree were actually harder than any divine metal or immortal gold. They weren't ordinary plants at all. A tree tempered by the blood of an immortal, even its branches are comparable to immortal gold, Zhang Xiaoyao thought to himself. This celestial immortal tree itself was an expert. The exchange between Zhang Xiaoyao and the celestial immortal tree also stunned everyone. They didn't expect Zhang Xiaoyao to be able to resist the celestial immortal tree. That weapon is also quite extraordinary. The few old antiques looked at the everlasting sword embryo in Zhang Xiaoyao's hand. Zhang Xiaoyao's origins became increasingly mysterious in their eyes. Even his weapons were extraordinary. Looks like it's still resisting. Zhang Xiaoyao frowned. Then, a thought flashed through his mind. The celestial immortal tree's hand. The celestial immortal tree, the immortal tree, immortal T's immortal T. The old antique's expressions changed, as the branch was about to pierce through Zhang Xiaoyao. Zheng. The branch, which looked like a spear, came to an abrupt halt when it was only a foot away from Zhang Xiaoyao. In the next moment, the earth shook and the sky swayed. The entire mountain peak began to tremble and rocks rolled down. The celestial immortal tree was uprooted. The roots moved as if they were two human legs, heading straight for Zhang Xiaoyao. It looked as if it was about to return to its mother's embrace. It was excited and impatient. What? Everyone was dumbfounded, shocked, and stunned. Their jaws almost fell to the ground. The old antiques were even more dumbfounded. What the hell was going on? The celestial immortal tree was like a human, uprooting itself from the ground, and then running toward Zhang Xiaoyao. Everyone was stunned. Their eyeballs were about to fall out. They had never seen such a strange scene in their lives. The void flashed slightly. The celestial immortal tree disappeared in front of Zhang Xiaoyao. Only a huge pit was left on the mountain peak. The celestial immortal tree of the fallen immortal ridge was completely not fated with the creatures of the state of heavenly tomb. All the foreign creatures present were stupefied and didn't come back to their senses. Zhang Xiaoyao's lips curled into a faint smile. Just now, he released the aura of the world tree. To a certain extent, The world tree could be considered the ancestor of all trees. It was the ancestor of all ancient trees. It could be said that even if it was just a small sapling, if planted next to the world tree, it could become a towering tree. The celestial immortal tree had a weak spiritual consciousness. After sensing the aura of the world tree, it naturally couldn't resist and wanted to take root next to the world tree. Jun Xiaoyaro moved the celestial immortal tree into his inner universe without any effort. Since it's an ownerless object, then it's naturally for the fated to obtain it. Well, I'm just ordinary. I'm just a little lucky, Jun Xiaoyaro sighed. The old antiques' mouths twitched, and their faces were full of black lines. They revealed smiles that were even uglier than crying. You have the chaotic body. Whatever you say is right. The celestial immortal banquet ended. Obviously, the only winner was Jun Xiaoyaro. Almost all the other foreign prodigies who participated were dead. By the way, young friend, let me tell you about the Ars Academy, an old antique reminded. Ars Academy? Jun Xiaoyaro looked surprised. After learning a little about it, Jun Xiaoyaro also knew that it was equivalent to the Nine Heavens Immortal Academy of the Celestial Realm. When the Ars Academy opens, there will be monsters from all over. If you want to train your chaotic body, the Ars Academy is the best choice, an old man said. Jun Xiaoyaro nodded. If he wanted to understand the foreign world, the academy was indeed the most convenient and fast way. Most importantly, it was convenient to ask for all kinds of information. Originally, I had the qualifications to go to the Nine Heavens Immortal Academy to receive the immortal level inheritance, but due to some fate, I ended up in the foreign world. However, when the Ars Academy opens, there should be a top-level inheritance similar to the Immortal Academy. Is this considered as the east window not being bright and the west window being bright? Jun Xiaoyaro thought and found it a little funny. Coincidentally, he was also very curious about the opportunities and inheritances of the foreign world. As for qualifications, as long as Jun Xiaoyaro wanted it, he would definitely get it. Sir, there's still some time before the Ars Academy opens. If you don't mind, you can come to my clan to rest temporarily. Fei Qingshue's heart was in turmoil. After hesitating for a long time, she mustered up her courage and said with a red face. Fei Qingxue, who was originally an ice beauty, had become so obedient and respectful. The surrounding creatures couldn't help but sigh. Sure enough, everyone wanted to ride the chaotic body's coattails. It didn't matter even if they had to pay. That's fine. Jun Xiaoyaro nodded. With the deterrence of the Heaven Illuminator. He also happened to have the idea of bringing the entire Ice Spirit royal family under his command first. As for those powerhouses whose realms exceeded Jun Xiaoyao's, as long as he could fool them, there wouldn't be any problems in the short term. As time passed, no matter how strong Jun Xiaoyaro was, he could continue to control them. Hearing Jun Xiaoyao's affirmative answer, Fei Qingxue was overjoyed. She and Chun Chun both drank the immortal tea and ate the heavenly immortal fruit. Their strength was incomparable to before. And all of this was due to Jun Xiaoyao's grace. Jun Xiaoyaro left the fallen immortal ridge. Under the respectful reception of Fei Qingxue and several Ice Spirit royal family elders, he headed to the Ice Spirit royal family's residence. No one present dared to stop Jun Xiaoyaro. Even those royal families, quasi-emperor clans, and so on, whose geniuses had died in Jun Xiaoyao's hands, didn't dare to act rashly. After all, it involved a chaotic body and the mysterious immortal king. They could only report the information to their clans. Chapter 929. The Heavenly Immortal Banquet ended. However, this was only the beginning of its impact. As the people of various races left, all kinds of news about the Heavenly Immortal Banquet spread throughout the entire Heavenly Tomb province as if they had grown wings. Even the other great prefectures were affected. After all, this Heavenly Immortal Banquet was unprecedented. A chaotic physique that was hard to come by since ancient times had been born. This was definitely big news that would set off shocking waves in the entire foreign realm. After all, the primal chaos body was ranked in the top 10 of the 3,000 primal chaos body constitutions. It even had the potential to become a great emperor. In the foreign realm, it was a given that it could become an immortal king. Not to mention, there was also the appearance of a mysterious immortal king at the end. This caused everyone to be even more shocked. A primal chaos body and a mysterious immortal king. Many of the foreign races were guessing. Could it be that another mysterious, hidden monarch tribe was about to show itself? Although most of the immortal emperor races were known in the foreign realm. However, there were also some extremely ancient emperor races that had been hidden for countless epochs. Those hidden emperor races might not even know about some of the old antiques. It was apparent that many beings from the other realms had mistaken Jun Xiaoyaro for a seed-level figure from a hidden monarch clan. He woke up in this epoch and then made a move, sweeping through his peers. After the Heavenly Immortal Banquet ended, the ones that were directly affected were the Fiery Rock Royal Race and the Black Peacock Royal Race. After all, they had the deepest and most direct conflict with Jun Xiaoyaro. Damn it! In the Fiery Rock Royal Race's palace, Prince Yang's father, Heavenly Venerate Raging Flames, roared angrily. His son had been swatted to death like a fly in front of the public. Anyone would find it hard to accept. Clan Master, calm down. That's right. The one who killed His Highness is a primal chaos body. He also has the mysterious immortal king behind him. That primal chaos body might be a seedling of a hidden emperor race. He cannot be provoked. Below, many Fiery Rock Royal Race elders were advising Heavenly Venerate Raging Flames. They were afraid that Heavenly Venerate Raging Flames would act rashly and do something brainless. At this moment, the Fiery Rock Royal Race's first elder arrived. He glanced at Heavenly Venerate Raging Flames. The ancestor said that we must not provoke that chaotic body. At the same time, hand over all the cities and lands our clan has occupied. We even need to prepare a large amount of resources and apologize to the Ice Spirit royal family. What? Hearing this, Empyrean Inferno's eyes widened in disbelief. Not only could he not avenge his son, but he also had to apologize to the Ice Spirit royal family. According to the ancestor's words, this child must not be provoked, said the great elder. All the elders present were dead silent as they took a deep breath. Their old ancestor wasn't a quasi-undying or undying king. However, he was still a Chaos Dao master. How could he be so wary of a young man? Empyrean Blazing Flames sat on the throne with a plop, as if he had aged a few hundred years in an instant. He knew that if that primal chaos body was really a seed of the hidden monarch race, then the monarch race would definitely have a chance. Forget about revenge. They could only pray that the Ice Spirit royal family wouldn't use the chaotic body to kill the Fiery Rock royal family. At the same time, the Black Peacock royal family was also in an uproar. As a top royal family, the overall strength of the Black Peacock royal family was much stronger than that of the Fiery Rock royal family. At this moment, the Black Peacock royal family's ancestral land was also in a mess. Did you hear? Miss Chantian was killed at the Heavenly Immortal Banquet. Yes, the one who killed Miss Chantian was a chaotic body. Gosh, such a heaven-defying physique actually appeared. Not only that, that chaotic body silently recited his true name, and an immortal phantom descended. Could it be that the chaotic body really came from an ancient hidden monarch family like the legends say? The entire Black Peacock royal family was in an uproar. After all, they were all looking forward to the marriage between Kong Chantian and Li Jiuyi. That way, the Black Peacock royal family could be considered to have climbed up to the glory of the monarch family. Now, everything had turned into a bubble. At this moment, in the ancestral land of the Black Peacock royal family, a floating island was suspended in the sky. It was the Peacock Island, and also the Black Peacock royal family's ancestor, the Peacock King, was in seclusion. The Peacock King was a famous quasi-immortal in the foreign realm. He was once on par with the Scarlet Owl King. However, the Scarlet Owl King broke through to the Immortal King realm and ascended, becoming a quasi-emperor clan. As long as the Peacock King broke through to the Immortal realm, the entire Black Peacock royal family could also become a quasi-emperor clan. At this moment, under the Peacock Island, the Black Peacock royal family's current patriarch led a group of elders here. We request an audience with the ancestor. The Black Peacock royal family's patriarch shouted. This incident was too important, and it had a far-reaching impact on the Black Peacock royal family. If it was an ordinary enemy, there was no need to alarm the Peacock King. They would directly destroy the other party. However, the one who killed Kong Qianqian this time was a mysterious chaotic body. He had even silently recited his true name and manifested an immortal phantom. Therefore, the people of the Black Peacock royal family did not dare to act rashly, fearing that they would provoke a hidden monarch family. Then they would be finished. I already know about this matter. Wait for me to divine. A gloomy voice came from the Peacock Island. Allow me to divine who you are. On the Peacock Island, an old man with a shriveled figure like a walnut and a black cloak said indifferently. With a move of his divine will, he triggered the laws of heaven and earth. Vaguely, time and space were fluctuating. Even the strings of karma were trembling slightly. A quasi-immortal phantom of a foreign realm was equivalent to a quasi-emperor of the immortal realm. Not to mention the Peacock King, who had been in the quasi-immortal realm for many years. He was only a fine line away from becoming a true immortal king. His mighty power was earth-shattering. However, after some calculations, the Peacock King was shocked. He could not divine the origin of that chaotic body and the mysterious immortal phantom behind it. He wanted to continue divining, but in the end, he suffered an inexplicable backlash. His body trembled, and he spat out a small mouthful of blood. How is this possible? The Peacock King was shocked, and his turbid pupils were trembling. He had been in seclusion for many years, but today, he was injured for the first time in a long time. There are only two possibilities. First, that chaotic body does not have a past at all. It is a void, a person who does not exist, but that is impossible. Second, there is a supreme who blocked and erased his karma. At the very least, it has to be an immortal king or above, much stronger than me. Could it really be a hidden emperor clan? But I have never heard of it. The Peacock King was incomparably shocked. For an expert like him, any waves could be ignored. The only thing that was most terrifying was the unknown ancestor. Below the Peacock Island, the Black Peacock royal clan's patriarch and the others heard a faint cough of blood. This made them incomparably terrified, and their voices were trembling. Could it be that their clan's ancestor, the Peacock King, was injured in the divination? Enough, don't get involved in this matter. The Peacock King's slightly tired voice sounded. Then ancestor, are we going to let this grudge go? Originally, our clan had a marriage alliance with the Infernal Emperor clan. The Black Peacock royal clan's patriarch wanted to say something but hesitated. Then let the Infernal Emperor clan deal with this matter. Perhaps they have the confidence. The Peacock King's voice sounded. Yes, the Black Peacock royal clan's patriarch and the others lowered their heads and retreated. No matter how unwilling and angry they were, there was nothing they could do. Even the Peacock King was afraid and did not want to get involved in this karma. It seems that the chaotic body really has a great background. Even the ancestor is afraid. A Black Peacock royal clan's elder sighed and said helplessly, if Jun Xiaoyaro knew what these foreign creatures were thinking, he would definitely laugh involuntarily. These foreign creatures were just too good at imagining things, tricking themselves into believing what they were saying. Chapter 930. Just as Fei Qingxue led Jun Xiaoyaro and the others to the Ice Spirit royal family's encampment. Many clans in the entire Heavenly Tomb state were inquiring about the situation, waiting for a storm to arise. But to everyone's astonishment, the Cinder-classed royal family and the Black Peacock royal family remained silent as if they didn't know what happened at the Heavenly Immortal Banquet. This surprised the group of people. It seemed that these two clans were really terrified. But to everyone's surprise, the Infernal clan didn't make any moves either. This was very surprising. Everyone thought to themselves, if it was their own Li Jiuan. His servant was casually killed. His concubine was humiliated, lying on the ground like a bitch, and finally killed. No one would be able to take this lying down, right? It seems that the chaotic body really has a powerful background. Even the Infernal clan is afraid of it. It's also possible that the Infernal clan doesn't want to become enemies with the chaotic body and the immortal king behind it because of Kong Qianqian. Many people were discussing. That said, without a doubt, many people believed that the legend of the chaotic body being from a hidden imperial clan. However, a few days later, a piece of news suddenly came out and caused a huge commotion. I, Li Jiuan, look forward to meeting the chaotic body and sparring at the Ars Academy. A sentence was transmitted out. Although there wasn't much anger on the surface. But everyone knew that the so-called sparring was not that simple. This was an arranged battle, because there might be a mysterious force behind the chaotic body. That was why the Infernal Clan didn't want to completely fall out with him and asked Li Jiuan to restrain himself. On a plane, Jun Xiaoyaro chuckled when he heard this. An Emperor Clan elite. I'm a little interested. Jun Xiaoyaro smiled. Sir, none of the Emperor Clan members are easy to deal with. You must be careful, Chun Chun said. Although in her heart, Jun Xiaoyaro was invincible among his peers. But she still had to remind him. Jun Xiaoyaro glanced at Chun Chun and felt that her attitude towards him seemed to have changed slightly after the heavenly immortal banquet. You little brat, you also know how to care for others. Hearing that, Chun Chun immediately blushed. She turned her face away and stammered, No. I'm just afraid that if you are careless and fall into my trap, no one will feed me afterward. Jun Xiaoyaro saw through it but did not say anything. If he kept this little girl, she would be useful in the future. A few days later, Jun Xiaoyaro arrived at the Ice Spirit royal family's residence. A city built from 10,000-year-old profound ice stood tall in the wind and snow. Surprisingly, the elders of the Ice Spirit royal family, including Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit, were already waiting in front of the city. Jun Xiaoyaro guessed that he might receive a grand reception. However, he did not expect the Ice Spirit royal family to be waiting outside the city for him. Thank you for coming to my Ice Frost city, young friend. Your presence brings light to my humble dwelling of the Ice Spirit royal family. The leader, Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit, cupped her hands slightly towards Jun Xiaoyaro and was extremely enthusiastic. Royal Father, Fei Qingxue was also surprised. She did not expect her father to be so enthusiastic. It was hard to imagine that a great heavenly venerable powerhouse would be so respectful to Jun Xiaoyaro. Afterward, Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit also warmly invited Jun Xiaoyaro to a grand banquet to welcome him. At the banquet, Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit was in an unprecedentedly happy mood. He smiled and said, Qingxue, pour wine for our young friend. Our young friend is the great benefactor of the Ice Spirit royal family. As your father, I want to toast you 3 times. Fei Qingxue was also well behaved. She stood beside Jun Xiaoyaro and poured wine for him. Chun Chun, on the other hand, grabbed a drumstick on the table and gnawed on it. Her small mouth was greasy. She was just a slacker. Following Jun Xiaoyaro, she could eat and drink for free. Don't mention it, Ice Spirit Clan leader, you don't have to be so polite. Jun Xiaoyaro also raised his cup and smiled. Haha, young friend, you don't know. The Firestone royal family came before. Not only did they return the land they occupied, but they also apologized and agreed not to invade each other. Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit laughed. One of his worries could be considered to have been completely cured. The Ice Spirit royal family had nothing to worry about. No wonder. Jun Xiaoyaro thought to himself. But this was also good. The more the Ice Spirit royal family respected him, the easier it would be to carry out the plan. When the wine was drunk, Jun Xiaoyaro suddenly smiled and said, Ice Spirit Clan leader, aren't you curious about the force behind me? Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit heard this and replied seriously, Young friend, you must be joking. How would I dare to investigate your background? In Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit's eyes, Jun Xiaoyaro had at least an immortal king behind him. It was not an existence that the Ice Spirit royal family could pry into. Jun Xiaoyaro said, Clan leader, you don't have to be like this. I can tell you directly that the force behind me is not some hidden monarch clan, but the Destiny Sect. The Destiny Sect. Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit was extremely shocked. It was rumored that Jun Xiaoyaro was the chaos body seed of an ancient hidden monarch clan that had awakened from a deep slumber. But now, Jun Xiaoyaro actually said that the Destiny Sect was behind him. The problem was that Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit had never heard of the Destiny Sect. Jun Xiaoyaro did not say anything. Instead, It was Fei Qingxue who understood. She stepped forward and said, "Father, weren't you curious about what kind of opportunity one obtained in the heavenly tomb?" "Qingxue, you mean?" Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit sensed something. Then, Fei Qingxue told Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit and some of the elders present what she had experienced. "What? The God of destiny and creation? Is it a gift from God that made your crippled icy heavenly bone become a Taoist bone? Young friend, are you the God of destiny and creation's messenger in the human world? And that mysterious immortal king is actually that God's servant?" Fei Qingxue's words refreshed the three views and understanding of the Ice Spirit royal family. Even Chun Chun was very surprised. She did not expect this mister to have such a background. If someone had said this to them, Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit and the others would definitely have scoffed. But now, this was something his daughter, Fei Qingxue, had experienced personally. In addition, Jun Xiaoyaro, who had the Chaos Constitution, was there. The manifestation of the immortal king was also something that everyone had witnessed with their own eyes. Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit could not help but doubt it. As for investigating the origin of the immortal king, even the quasi-immortal level Peacock King could not detect it. Not to mention Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit, who was a great heavenly venerable. It was even more impossible to offend. Looking at the shocked expressions of Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit and the others, Jun Xiaoyaro saw everything. This was the effect he wanted to see. "It's about time," Jun Xiaoyaro thought to himself. Then, he said directly, "Patriarch, although I can solve your family's problem for a while, strength is everything. But you must know that in my world, strength is paramount. Without true strength, it is impossible to be protected for long. So, is the Ice Spirit royal family willing to join the Church of Destiny and believe in the great and supreme God of destiny and creation?" Jun Xiaoyaro smiled. It was a devil's smile. The bait had been cast. Would the Ice Spirit royal family take the bait? Chapter 931. Jun Xiaoyao's invitation caused the originally noisy banquet to quiet down. All the upper echelons of the Ice Spirit royal family seemed to have stopped breathing. They vaguely sensed that this might be an opportunity to change the declining fate of the Ice Spirit royal family. If it was during the heyday of the Ice Spirit royal family, the Ice Spirit royal family naturally wouldn't easily join any faction. But now, the Ice Spirit royal family was not as powerful as before. They almost fell out of the 100 great royal families. In fact, without Jun Xiaoyao's help, not to mention the Black Peacock royal family, even a Fiery Rock royal family could force them to a dead end. Jun Xiaoyaro saw what was going on and decided to give him another shot. My Destiny sect has a supreme cultivation technique called the Dao Heart Demonic Seed Art. Qingxue has already cultivated it. You also know that her cultivation has improved. As long as you believe in the God of destiny and creation, you can also cultivate this cultivation technique. The strength of your entire family will increase by a level. At that time, even the Fiery Rock royal family will be left behind by you and can be destroyed at will. Jun Xiaoyao's voice was like the voice of a devil that tempted people to fall. Celestial Master Ice Spirit's heart thumped. Her cultivation realm had not broken through for a long time. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes flashed and he chuckled. "If you still don't believe me, then I'll let you comprehend a section of the technique first." Jun Xiaoyaro casually pointed, and a section of scripture appeared and landed between Celestial Master Ice Spirit's eyebrows. Celestial Master Ice Spirit closed her eyes. After carefully comprehending it, she suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes were red, and her breathing was rapid. This cultivation technique was truly heaven-defying. It could be given to others to cultivate and obtain the results of other people's cultivation. And it could be expanded infinitely. Celestial Master Ice Spirit knew that if she could obtain this opportunity, it would not be difficult to break through the bottleneck. Seeing Celestial Master Ice Spirit's rapid breathing, Jun Xiaoyao's lips curled into a faint smile. People tended to seek benefits and avoid harm. As long as it was something beneficial to them, they would naturally take the initiative to join without Jun Xiaoyao's persuasion. Jun Xiaoyaro was a top-notch expert in reading people's minds and manipulating them. It's the honor of the Ice Spirit royal family to be able to join the Church of Destiny. Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit cupped her hands. Now, joining the Destiny sect was undoubtedly the best choice for the declining Ice Spirit royal family. Empyrean Ice Spirit found it hard to imagine. If the entire clan cultivated the Tao Heart demonic seed art, just how powerful would they become? It wasn't like there was no hope for them to become a top royal family, right? Fei Qingxue was also very happy. She was very happy that the Ice Spirit royal family had chosen the right path. Patriarch, you've made the wisest choice. But the Church of Destiny hasn't shown up yet. I'll make arrangements for everything, said Jun Xiaoyao. Right now, all he needed to do was to control the Ice Spirit royal family. As for the other royal families, they would have to wait for the right time. Rice had to be eaten mouthful by mouthful, and could not be rushed. Of course. We will respect the orders of the divine emissary, said Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit. You don't have to do that. As long as you're a devout believer and don't easily reveal the secrets of our sect, it'll be fine. The Ice Spirit royal family will still be the Ice Spirit royal family, said Jun Xiaoyao with a smile. Thank you, divine emissary. Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit was extremely grateful. At least the Ice Spirit royal family still retained their autonomy. Looking at the grateful and respectful faces of the Ice Spirit royal family, Jun Xiaoyao also sighed in his heart. His skills at tricking people were getting better and better. After that, Jun Xiaoyao also handed the Tao Heart demonic seed art to Celestial Venerable Ice Spirit and the others. They couldn't wait to cultivate it. Jun Xiaoyao went to a spring deep in the Ice Spirit royal family's territory. This spring water was extremely strange. Half of it was hot, and the other half was cold. Jun Xiaoyao recalled that he hadn't soaked in a hot spring for a long time. This hobby was about to be thrown away. Since the world of divine ruins, everything has been in a hurry. It's time to slow down. The plan has been laid out bit by bit. Next, we just have to wait for the Ars Academy to open. I'm quite interested in plundering the opportunities of the foreign lands, Jun Xiaoyao thought to himself. Sir, Fei Qingxue was wearing a tight-fitting undergarment that was as thin as a cicada's wing. It was the kind that was a little transparent. She knelt beside Jun Xiaoyao with a red face and massaged his shoulders. Fei Qingxue really had the characteristics of the Ice Spirit royal family. Her skin was as white as ice and snow. At this moment, her slightly red cheeks and shy appearance made her even more beautiful. Now, the fate of the entire Ice Spirit royal family was in the hands of Jun Xiaoyao. Fei Qingxue looked at Jun Xiaoyao as if she was at his mercy. Jun Xiaoyao didn't avoid it. He still had to enjoy the service that he should enjoy. Seeing that Jun Xiaoyao didn't have any intention of doing anything to her, Fei Qingxue felt a little disappointed. She didn't know that in Jun Xiaoyao's eyes, she was just a tool. Oh, it's time to soak in the hot spring. A clear and delicate voice rang out. A petite and dainty figure fell into the spring water with a thud, splashing up the water. Chun returned to her original state and blew bubbles like a little mermaid that had just come out of the bath. What made the corner of Jun Xiaoyao's mouth twitch was that this little girl was completely naked. Her soft and thick white hair perfectly covered her chest. It was like a natural mosaic. Is this clan also open? Jun Xiaoyao was speechless. He knew Chuan's origin the first time he saw her. Seeing Jun Xiaoyao staring at her, Chun didn't feel shy. Instead, Linglong leaned toward Jun Xiaoyao and asked, Sir, where are you looking at? Well, as far as the eye can see. It's very flat. Jun Xiaoyao said as if nothing had happened. Chun immediately pursed her red lips and soaked her body in the water with a resentful look on her face. Jun Xiaoyao no longer paid attention to Chun. Instead, he probed his inner universe. The celestial tree automatically landed beside the tree of world and took root in the all-creation soil. Jun Xiaoyao then sprinkled the spring water from the spring of life on the celestial tree. In an instant, the bare celestial tree was shrouded in all kinds of divine light. The branches began to sprout one by one. Even the embryonic form of the celestial fruit began to be born. If the old antiques in the heavenly tomb state saw this speed, their eyeballs would definitely pop out. The celestial tree only bore fruit once every 1,000 years. Each time, it was a long wait. Even the celestial spirit leaf could only bear dozens or hundreds of leaves in hundreds of years. But now, the celestial tree had sprouted in just a few hours in Jun Xiaoyao's inner universe. Even the embryonic form of the celestial fruit was ready. Of course, there were 3 reasons for this. The all-creation soil, the spring of life, and most importantly, the influence of the tree of world. As the ancestor of all trees, the tree of world had greatly enhanced the celestial tree. At this rate, it should be able to bear the celestial fruit again in a few months. It just so happens that I also lack law fragments. Jun Xiaoyao thought to himself. In order to become a true supremacy, one must master a complete law. The reason why there was a quasi-supremacy in front of quasi-supremacy was because a complete law had not been born in one's body and could not be controlled. Right now, Jun Xiaoyao was already preparing to break through to the supremacy level. The first law will be the law of the physical body. Chapter 932. The first immortal qi that Jun Xiaoyao condensed was the immortal qi of the physical body. His physical body was also unparalleled throughout the ages. Now, although Jun Xiaoyao had the chaotic physique, the ability of his physical body was not weaker than the original sacred body of the ancients. Jun Xiaoyao was ready to condense the physical body law first and use it to break through to the real supreme realm. Then, he would condense other laws. After condensing the physical body law, Jun Xiaoyao's physical body would sublimate to a certain extent. However, if he wanted to control the physical body law, in addition to Jun Xiaoyao's own comprehension, the law fragments were also of great assistance. That was why Jun Xiaoyao seized the celestial tree to get more celestial fruits to extract the law fragments. Except for the celestial tree, Jun Xiaoyao was also paying attention to the seed of faith. Although the seed of faith had not changed much until now. However, there were already dense balls of light around him. Most of them were only the size of a fist. Those should be the faith of the slave creatures. Although the power of faith was small, it was very devout, bright, and dazzling. A few of the balls of light were of different sizes. Some were the size of a human head, some were the size of a watermelon, and some were even the size of a star. This should be the faith of the Ice Spirit royal family experts. The power of faith provided by it was much more vigorous than that of the slave creatures. However, it was not as bright and dazzling as that of the slave creatures. Although the Ice Spirit royal family believed in the god of fate and creation, they were obviously not as devout as those slave creatures. However, Jun Xiaoyao did not care. When his strength increased, he would naturally be able to control everything. In the following time, Jun Xiaoyao stayed in the Ice Spirit royal family for the time being. On the other side, on the vast desolate plains of the state of Heavenly Tomb, a bloody battle was breaking out. A team of more than 10 slave tribes was besieging the Cyclops tribe. As a general tribe, the Cyclops tribe was not the top. However, in this vast plain, they were like masters. Many slave tribes around were exploited and bullied by them. But now, the Cyclops tribe discovered that more than 10 slave tribes had joined forces to overthrow the Cyclops rule. Revolt. These lowly slaves are all revolting. Damn it, how did they become so much stronger? A Cyclops shouted angrily. Logically speaking, these slave races wouldn't be able to obtain too many resources. He didn't have any good cultivation techniques either. Their strength would almost always remain at their original level, making it easier to rule them. But right now, there were even saints and saint kings amongst this group of slave races. This was ridiculous. Kill. In the middle of the crowd, a young man with a strong body, dark skin, and a determined face appeared. Like a wolf in a flock of sheep, he blew up a Cyclops with a single punch. Black Skin Tribe. The eyes of the one-eyed giants were filled with rage. The first to rebel was the Black Skin Tribe. This young man was the current leader of the Black Skin Tribe, Tuoba Yu. Shockingly, his current cultivation was at the Saint realm. This caused the Cyclopes to be dumbfounded and shocked. Such a young saint was truly astounding. One had to know that in the beginning, Tuoba Yu hadn't even reached the Saint realm. But now, he had become a saint. This speed of improvement was absolutely abnormal. He could be called an eternal monster. However, these Cyclopes naturally didn't know what kind of fortuitous opportunity Tuoba Yu had obtained. Tuoba Yu was the first to obtain the Tao Heart demonic seed art. Naturally, he was the biggest beneficiary of the Tao Heart demonic seed art. It could be said that all the other living beings who had obtained the Tao Heart demonic seed art were supporting his cultivation, continuously transferring energy to him. In addition, Tuoba Yu had obtained 1,000th of Jun Xiaoyao's cultivation talent. Jun Xiaoyao's name had to be emphasized. For other eternal monsters and peerless geniuses, 1,000th of their cultivation talent might only be able to create a relatively strong genius. However, Jun Xiaoyao's 1,000th of talent in cultivation made him even more powerful than some geniuses of all ages. Therefore, it wasn't hard to understand that Tuoba Yu could reach the Saint Realm in such a short time. After a bloody battle, Tuoba Yu managed to kill the Cyclops tribe patriarch, who was of a higher rank than him. The entire Cyclops tribe was annihilated, even though the Cyclops tribe was the weakest among the general tribes. However, this victory also boosted the morale of all the slaves. Thank you, Lord Tuoba Yu. If it weren't for you, we might still be bullied by the Cyclops tribe. The leader of the Bloodbone tribe said excitedly. That's right. Lord Tuoba Yu is a true hero. The Goblin tribe shouted. The dozen or so slaves all cheered loudly. Feeling the worship of the thousands of beings around him, Tuoba Yu took a deep breath. Wasn't this what he had always dreamed of? But, Tuoba Yu was also very clear-headed. He knew who had given him his current glory. The god of fate and creation could give him everything, and could also take everything away from him. Therefore, Tuoba Yu's faith became even more devout. Everyone, I, Tuoba Yu, am only a rebel. The one you should truly believe in and praise is the great god of fate and creation. It's the great and supreme God who changed the tragic fate of our slave. Tuoba Yu's words made the cheers even louder. We are willing to be devout believers of the God of fate and creation forever. The devout shouts shook the heavens and earth. Tuoba Yu raised his arm and shouted, but we are not the only ones who are being bullied. There are also tens of millions of slaves. Who is willing to follow me to liberate more slaves? The Bloodbone tribe is willing to follow Lord Tuoba Yu and the God of fate and creation. The Goblin tribe is willing to follow Lord Tuoba Yu and the God of fate and creation. The Mystic Mist tribe is willing to follow. All the clans were shouting loudly, their voices surging with passion and decisiveness. A single spark could start a prairie fire. Perhaps even Jun Xiaoyao, who had set up this game, did not expect that Tuoba Yu, this chess piece, would have such a good effect. Although the slaves were at the bottom of the foreign realm and were the weakest existences. But quantitative change could cause qualitative change. As long as there were enough of them, and they all cultivated the Tao Heart demonic seed art. The rise of the slaves was just around the corner. At that time, the foreign realm would probably have a headache. On the other side, Jun Xiaoyao did not care about Tuoba Yu's plan and allowed it to develop freely. Jun Xiaoyao could only feel that the light of faith in the inner universe was increasing by the tens of thousands. The seed of faith began to undergo some subtle changes. Its surface began to be covered with a faint layer of light. One could vaguely see the shadows of countless living beings worshipping it devoutly. Although this change was subtle, it also meant that Jun Xiaoyao's direction was not wrong. If there really was a so-called god, then Jun Xiaoyao should be conferred as the god of deception. During the days when the Ice Spirit royal family stayed, there were royal families, top royal families, and quasi-emperor clans who came to visit from time to time. There were even messengers from the emperor clans who came to ask to see Jun Xiaoyao. Jun Xiaoyao rejected all of these. These people wanted nothing more than to investigate his background or recruit him. But now, Jun Xiaoyao was not prepared to join any quasi-emperor clans or immortal emperor clans. That would be too restrictive and inconvenient. On a certain day, the sound of a bell suddenly rang out. This bell sound reverberated through heaven and earth, resounding through the foreign realm like a great bell. Countless young creatures of the foreign realm raised their heads and looked up at the sky, their eyes burning with flames. The Ars Academy had opened. Chapter 933. The sound of the bell echoed throughout the 10 great states of the foreign realm. The loud bell sound came from one of the War God Academy's imperial weapons, the war bell. When the bell was rung, it was time for the War God Academy to open. Like the 9 Heavens Immortal Academy, the War God Academy did not open every epoch. Only in the most prosperous times or the most chaotic times would these 2 top academies appear in the world and oppose each other. As the 2 highest academies of the 2 realms, the 9 Heavens Immortal Academy and the War God Academy clearly gathered the top elites of the various realms. In the future, these elites of the 2 realms would engage in an ultimate clash in the war-torn lands of the desolate border. And now, the War God Academy had opened, and the prodigies of the various foreign realms could not hold back. In a seclusion place of the infernal clan. Suddenly, the world darkened, and the sun and moon lost their light. Many of the infernal imperial clansmen looked to the location of the closed-door training. They were all pleasantly surprised and shocked. It's the young master's seclusion place. The War God Academy has opened, and the young master is about to come out of seclusion. While everyone was still in shock, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the sky. There was actually an eye in that crack. Above the universe, an evil eye floated in the sky. Many of the infernal clan members were extremely excited at the sight of this ancestral returning eye. I didn't expect the young master to have cultivated the infernal evil eye to such a level. Rumble. Heaven and earth shook, and the mountain range shook. An incomparably transcendent figure stepped out with his hands behind his back. It was a young man dressed in black and gold luxurious clothes. His appearance was extremely young, and he was also very handsome. His entire body was filled with the aura of a pseudo-supreme, and he was not too far from a true supreme. He was thousands of years old, and he was definitely part of the younger generation among the foreign realms. To be able to cultivate to a pseudo-supreme at this age, only those of the pseudo-emperor clan and above had such a foundation. Greetings, young master. In all directions, many infernal creatures were bowing down in worship. This young man was naturally Li Jiui, an elite of the emperor clan, and also one of the 10 heavenly kings of the younger generation. Although Kong Qianqian is only a concubine that I have taken a fancy to, she is still mine. The chaos body is a little too much. Do you really think you can be unbridled just because you have the support of a mysterious immortal? Li Juming's tone was cold and deep. Even a top royal clan or a quasi-emperor clan with an immortal king would not be willing to offend another immortal king. Only the true immortal emperor clans would have the confidence to face the immortal kings. After all, every immortal emperor clan was extremely ancient and had a deep foundation. Otherwise, it would not pose such a great threat to the 9 Heavens immortal realm. Although the infernal clan could not be considered to be one of the strongest and most ancient clans among the immortal imperial clans, they were still very powerful. However, they had also towered in the other side for countless great eras, not someone anyone could provoke. Let's go to the Ars Academy and see how capable that chaotic body is. Li Jiui stepped across the void. In the palm of his hand, there was a crack that faintly split open, and a terrifying aura surged within it. The atavistic infernal eye could be said to be Li Jiui's ultimate trump card. It was because of this that he did not have the void primal chaos body. On another continent, there was an ancient monarch tribe. This bloodline grew on the floating Emperor Mountain. It was the Morgia tribe. They had mastered the top-tier ability of being untouchable and magic power immunity. At this moment, on the Emperor Mountain, there were experts communicating with their divine sense. Can't you figure out the origin of that chaotic body? Which monarch tribe is it from? Could it be one of the bloodlines from the Avacania lands? Sure, those bloodlines are not something we can speculate about. Calamity-level immortals can sense it even if it's just mentioned in a discussion. Then what should we do? The only divine ability of our Morgia tribe cannot be leaked to outsiders. Has the Emperor's son not woken up yet? It's still a few days away. Then when the Emperor's son wakes up, let him investigate and solve it. After all, the Emperor's son is one of the 7 minor emperors of our realm. When he comes out, he will need a great battle. It's a good opportunity to sharpen his blade with the chaotic body. The Parameter continent was one of the 10 great continents of the other side. The most famous monarch tribe in this area was naturally the legendary Parameter monarch tribe. After all, the entire continent was named after the Parameter continent. At this moment, in an area of the Parameter continent, a large patch of beautiful blue Parameter flowers grew in this area. A blue-clothed, blue-haired young man strolled among the blue Parameter flowers. He looked extremely handsome. He was the Parameter prince, a top-notch prodigy of the blue Parameter flowers. The blue Parameter flowers were a branch of the Parameter monarch tribe. Although it was just a branch, it was backed by the Parameter monarch tribe. Its status was not inferior to a quasi-monarch tribe. In front of the Parameter prince, an enchanting woman with a devil mask on her face appeared. Hua Lian, it seems like the Parameter organization you manage isn't doing too well, the Parameter prince said calmly. The masked woman named Hua Lian shook her head slightly and sighed. Sigh, who knew that little girl Xian Yu would betray us? She was the most cold-blooded, numb, and heartless person in the organization. Yes, the most cold-blooded and heartless person. In the end, she fell in love and betrayed our Parameter monarch tribe, the Parameter prince said with a laugh. But I didn't expect that little girl Xian Yu to be so lucky. She survived and even returned to our world. Hua Lian's tone had a hint of surprise. Previously, in the world of the divine ruins, Xian Yu stood up for Jun Xiaoyao. Many creatures of the exotic domain saw that. This also meant that Xian Yu had betrayed the exotic domain and the Parameter organization. In the end, Xian Yu and the fallen Jun Xiaoyao fell into the abyss of the void together. The people of the Parameter organization thought that Xian Yu was dead, so they did not investigate. Who knew that in the exotic domain, someone would find traces of Xian Yu? This attracted the attention of the Parameter organization and the blue Parameter flowers. As for the woman named Hua Lian, she was the leader who had brought Xian Yu into the Parameter organization. The Ars Academy has opened. I'm going there next. As for Xian Yu, after you capture her, hand her over to me. I want to torture her to death in front of countless creatures. The Parameter monarch tribe will not allow traitors to appear. The Parameter prince's tone was cold and indifferent. The Parameter monarch tribe was very low-key. Not only were they few in number, but they also rarely showed themselves. As time passed, the blue Parameter flowers replaced the Parameter monarch tribe to handle all kinds of affairs. This time, they wanted to use Xian Yu to establish their power and make their presence known. Sigh, I'm a little reluctant. After all, Xian Yu is such a sharp knife. Hua Lian sighed. What's so pitiful about a traitor? The Parameter prince shook his head slightly. He stepped into the void, and blue Parameter flowers bloomed, forming a path that extended into the distance. Looking at the Parameter prince's back view, the expression under Hua Lian's mask turned cold. When the tiger is not in the mountain, the monkey is the king. It's just a branch, but they are still so arrogant. The Parameter Heavenly Maiden should be waking up soon. After all, she was the one who appointed me to find Xian Yu, Hua Lian muttered. The Parameter Heavenly Maiden she mentioned was the princess of the Parameter monarch tribe who was in hibernation. Her name was Meng Nu. She was also one of the 7 minor emperors of the exotic domain. Chapter 934. Tushan, on top of a mountain peak. There was a woman standing there. She was tall and slender, wearing tight green armor. Her facial features were beautiful, but when she raised her eyebrows, she had a valiant aura. Her hair was tied into a high ponytail, giving her a refreshing feeling. She was like a female general on the battlefield. However, the furry fox ears on her head and the foxtail behind her but exposed her identity as a Tushan fox. Tushan 4th Princess, Tushan Wanwan. A woman with a neat personality who advocated martial arts. Among the 5 beauties of Tushan, she was often said to be a tomboy by the other sisters. But that wasn't the case. Tushan Wanwan's body was perfect and curvy. She had the charm of a woman. However, her personality was straightforward, giving her a heroic and charming feeling. The Ars Academy is open. I should meet some interesting people. But Big Sister and the others are so focused on preparing for the marriage that they didn't even participate in such a grand event. I won't rely on men to cultivate. The man I like in the future should at least be a man who can get the title of God of War. Tushan Wanwan's eyes were filled with yearning. The title of God of War in the Ars Academy was the greatest reward for the younger generation. Although Tushan Wanwan was from a monarch family, she also knew that it would be difficult for her to get the title of God of War. Oh right, third sister said before that her red string of marriage was once tied to the son of God of the Jun family in the immortal region. It's a bit ridiculous. Tushan Wanwan shook her head. How could they be together with a cultivator from the immortal region? Forget it, let's go to the Ars Academy first. Little Black, prepare the horse. Tushan Wanwan shouted. As the fourth princess of Tushan, she didn't like to ride palanquins. Instead, she liked to ride the sky feather horse. Yes, Your Highness. On the side, a handsome young man with slightly dark skin cupped his hands respectfully. When he looked at Tushan Wnwn, there was a trace of hidden infatuation in his eyes. His name was Yun Xiaohei. He was the most humble black fox in the Tushan fox family. He had no parents since he was young and was a wandering child beggar. It was Tushan Wanwan. She pitied him when she passed by, so she picked him up and made him the coachman of the heavenly feather horse. Therefore, Yun Xiaohei was very grateful to Tushan Wanwan. In addition, Tushan Wnwn herself was an extremely beautiful woman. Yun Xiaohei naturally developed feelings of admiration for Tushan Wanwan. Of course, Yun Xiaohei was also very self-aware. He was nothing but a homeless beggar picked up by Tushan Wnwn, and now, he was only a coachman. In addition, he had a lowly black fox bloodline. Compared to Tushan Wanwan's status, there was a huge difference. As long as he could stay by Tushan Wnwan's side as a groom and see her every day, Yun Xiaohei would be satisfied. Yun Xiaohei went to the horse seller. Right at this moment, Yun Xiaohei suddenly felt a sharp pain in his mind, as if he was being pricked by needles. He clutched his head. In the consciousness of the underworld, it was as if there was a pair of fox eyes full of destructive demonic intent staring at him. Come back quickly. This voice penetrated his ears like a demon's voice and was transmitted into Yun Xiaohei's mind. He felt that there seemed to be something wrong with his body. There was a burning feeling in his abdomen. He hurriedly lifted his shirt. He suddenly found that a black 6-point star mark was branded on his abdomen dantian. What the hell is this? Yun Xiaohei was extremely shocked. Previously, he had a birthmark on his abdomen that looked like a star. But now, this birthmark had turned into a black 6-point star mark. Yun Xiaohei had no idea what this meant. After all, some time ago, when the black 6-point star lit up the sky, only some big shots perceived it and thought that the legendary 6 kings of destruction would appear in the world. It was difficult for a small character like Yun Xiaohei to detect it. It's really strange. Forget it, let's hurry up and lead the horse for the princess. We can't let her wait too long. Yun Xiaohei shook his head and directly went to lead the horse. At about the same time, one of the 10 great provinces of the foreign world, the Demon Abyss province. In an ancient forbidden land, in the heavenly barrier blood abyss. Countless blood and bones were deposited here. Floating corpses that had been dead for countless years drifted in the sea of blood. This was a sea of blood in the abyss, and it was also a forbidden land that no one dared to enter. It was rumored that this sea of blood, even if a supreme being was tainted, would be corroded and turned into white bones. And at this moment, in the sea of blood, suddenly, a stone coffin appeared. This was a little inconceivable. The stone coffin was clearly incomparably heavy, but it could float in the sea of blood. On the stone coffin, there were ancient 6-point star patterns. Those originally silent patterns suddenly bloomed with a bewitching blood light. It flickered as if it was breathing. Immediately, the coffin lid opened. Monstrous chi and blood surged, and pressure overturned all directions. That feeling was as if the gates of hell had been opened. Amidst the hazy blood energy, a delicate and charming figure vaguely appeared. At the incomparably tender and supple snow-white area, there was a black 6-point star imprint, setting off her delicate snow-white skin, exceptionally striking. I sense the aura of the first king. It seems like he has already awakened. I really want to see him quickly. There is also the aura of the 5th king. It seems like in this era, there really is a chance of opening up the path to the unspeakable lands, obtaining the forbidden inheritance. This woman muttered, her voice sweet and charming to the bone, making one's heart go numb. The legends of Doomsday, the world-destroying six kings. Originally, many people only treated this as a story. Now, it seemed like in this great era, the legends might become true. At that time, it would be a heaven-shocking disaster for immortal domain. War God Academy's war bell sounded for a total of 7 days and 7 nights, spreading to every corner of the foreign world's 10 great provinces. A few ambitious heavenly prides all prepared to go on their way. Of course, not all creatures would immediately head out. For example, the imperial prince who was still sleeping, or the peerless monsters who were still in seclusion. But no matter what, War God Academy was still the gathering place of the foreign world's heavenly prides. On the Ice Spirit royal family's side, many powerhouses secretly cast their gazes towards this place. A chaotic physique affected many people's minds. After all, it was a rare chaotic physique. Many people believed that the appearance of the chaotic physique could even break the current situation of the foreign world's 10 heavenly kings and even the 7 minor emperors. It shouldn't be too much of a problem for the chaotic physique to deal with the 10 heavenly kings, but the 7 minor emperors are different. Those are the true young supreme beings. That's not necessarily true. You've also seen the chaotic physique's battle prowess. Killing a quasi-supreme like Wu Kuan is almost effortless. Then let's wait and see. If this chaotic physique really goes to War God Academy, he will definitely fight with the infernal clan's Li Jiuyi. That's right, that's a powerful existence in the top 3 of the 10 heavenly kings' battle prowess. Other than the 7 minor emperors whose cultivation realm is slightly weaker, they are not much weaker in other aspects. It really makes one look forward to it. Many powerhouses were communicating with their divine wills. And just after 7 days of bell ringing, in the ancient city of the Ice Spirit royal family, 3 figures turned into divine rainbows and stepped into the air. It was Jun Xiaoyaro, Chun Chun, and Fei Qingxue. The chaotic physique has set off. Many people were secretly shocked. It seemed that there would be a good show in War God Academy. A chaotic physique was enough to stir up endless storms. Chapter 935. When he heard the bell of Ars Academy, Jun Xiaoyaro was ready to go. After all, he hadn't joined any monarch race yet. If he wanted to find out more information, he could only go to Ars Academy. Not to mention, Ars Academy had all kinds of resources. With his chaos physique, those old guys from Ars Academy would probably stuff all kinds of resources on him. Ars Academy wasn't located in the Heavenly Tomb State. Among the 10 states of the foreign realm, the Heavenly Tomb State wasn't considered a core state. It was considered a relatively remote place. Ars Academy was located in the Styx River state of the 10 states. In this state, there was a Styx River that ran through the entire 10 states of the foreign realm. In the end, it flowed to the unspeakable land in the depths of the 10 states. Between the 10 states, there were all kinds of natural moats, dangerous lands, and ancient forbidden lands that formed natural barriers. However, there were cross-state teleportation portals between different states, so it wasn't too troublesome. It only took half a month. Jun Xiaoyaro, Chun Chun, and Fei Qingxue came to the Styx River state. The race in charge of the cross-state teleportation portal didn't even dare to charge when they saw that it was Jun Xiaoyaro. After all, the reputation of the chaos physique had already spread in the Heavenly Tomb state. The creatures of other states had also heard of it. However, Jun Xiaoyaro still made Fei Qingxue pay the fee. This nether river is boundless. The vast and boundless Styx River spanned thousands of feet. Black river water surged within, bringing with it an aura of extreme yin, as well as a dense aura of darkness. There was a lot of dark matter in the river. Jun Xiaoyaro landed in front of the Styx River and directly reached out to scoop up a handful of water. Sir, Fei Qingxue and Chuanchuan's expressions changed slightly. The water of the Styx River wasn't simple. It was the river water that flowed to the unspeakable land. It could easily freeze and crack one's body and destroy one's primordial spirit. Even the creatures of the foreign realm didn't dare to approach it, let alone touch it. However, Jun Xiaoyaro easily scooped up the Styx river water. A chill that reached deep into one's heart surged. However, in Jun Xiaoyao's inner universe, the lunar saint power circulated and dissolved the chill. But at the same time, there was another dark substance that was corroding it. In the innerverse, the black blood of the heavens absorbed it without leaving a trace. Styx. Jun Xiaoyaro muttered to himself. During this period of time in the other side, he also learned about some things. For example, outside of the 10 great provinces of the other side, there was also the most mysterious forbidden land, the Avacania lands. Unspeakable lands was located in the deepest part of the foreign world's 10 great provinces. That place was one where not even the foreign creatures dared to casually approach. The dark matter within it was too dense. There were also all sorts of strange things. The immortal realm had the so-called 7 inconceivable forbidden legends. If the other side also had one, then unspeakable lands could definitely be included, moreover one of the most mysterious and strange inconceivable places. It seems that the origin of the foreign dark matter is related to the unspeakable lands. This dark matter is what makes the foreign creatures so powerful, but it's not a good medicine. If one completely falls into it, even their rationality will be completely devoured, Jun Xiaoyaro thought to himself. Underworld River, from a certain perspective, could be considered the mother river of the other side. It made the other side powerful, but it also had side effects. Could father also be interested in unspeakable lands? Jun Xiaoyaro suddenly thought of his father, Jun Wuhui. He was one of the 3 pure ones, and after the battle with Scarlet Owl King, he disappeared. No one knew his whereabouts. Jun Xiaoyaro thought about it. If he was Jun Wuhui, what part of the other side could attract him? There should only be unspeakable lands. However, Jun Xiaoyaro still had doubts. Why didn't Jun Wuhui enter earlier or later, instead choosing this time to disappear in the other side? Could it be that his father sensed that there might be great changes in unspeakable lands in the future? Jun Xiaoyaro was very puzzled. Right now, there were still too few clues, temporarily unable to sort out a complete sequence of events. However, he already had an idea in his mind. If possible, he wanted to go to unspeakable lands. Of course, this still depended on the follow-up plan. After all, even if it was a foreign creature, it was impossible for them to casually go to unspeakable lands. One needed a certain amount of qualifications to approach. As expected of Sir. Seeing Jun Xiaoyaro touch the water of the underworld river so easily, Fei Qingshue's beautiful eyes were only filled with admiration. Not bad. Chun Chun snorted, but her beautiful eyes were also sparkling. Next, Jun Xiaoyaro brought the 2 girls to the Ars Academy as if they were on a scenic tour. They were not in a hurry. The Ars Academy was located in the central region of the underworld river continent. It was an incomparably auspicious and immortal land. It was rumored that it was also the place where the dragon vein of the other side was located. It was precisely this kind of heavenly paradise that allowed the academy to be located here and nurture peerless geniuses. As far as the eye could see, the Ars Academy occupied thousands of hectares. There were mountain ranges, plains, and heavenly palaces floating in the void. A waterfall formed by the condensation of spiritual liquids fell from the sky. Immortal flowers spat out red clouds, auspicious grass competed for brilliance, clouds rose, and a myriad of scenes. It could be said that even some of the more knowledgeable quasi-emperor clans and even emperor clan prodigies' eyes would light up when they came here, and they would secretly praise in their hearts. The ancient mountain gate was as majestic as a mountain, at least 10,000 feet tall. The 4 words Ars Academy were written on it, releasing a resplendent brilliance. A bronze bell hung in front of the mountain gate. It was the emperor weapon that had let out the sound of the bell, the war bell. To place an emperor weapon in front of the mountain gate as a bell, one could see how deep the Ars Academy's foundation was. At this moment, prodigies from all over the foreign territory gathered in front of the mountain gate. Although it could not be said that all the prodigies were here, but most of them still rushed over immediately. The Ars Academy's recruitment process also had a series of procedures. Not just any Tom, Dick, or Harry could be recruited. The huge Ars Academy was divided into an inner and outer courtyard. There were only 9,999 seats in the outer courtyard. There were even fewer in the inner courtyard, only 999 seats. In total, there were more than 10,000 people. Don't think that it looked like a lot. But one had to know that the total number of young people in the foreign territories' 10 great states was more than hundreds of millions. Even if the slave race and general race were excluded. The number of prodigies from the royal race and above added up was also a shocking number. Furthermore, the Ars Academy adopted a last-place elimination system. Those who were weak and at the bottom would be eliminated, and even stronger prodigies would be recruited. This was also the cruel survival of the weak in the foreign territory to the extreme. At this moment, in front of the mountain gate, countless young prodigies gathered together, almost covering the sky. Those who had the qualifications to participate in the Ars Academy's test were at least of the royal race and above. As for the general race, unless a true elite dark horse appeared, it would be difficult for them to enter the academy. As for the slave race, they didn't even have the qualifications to come to the mountain gate. Have you guys heard that the Ars Academy seems to have 10 quasi-war god seats this time? I heard that too. Those are quasi-war guards. They will receive endless resources from the Ars Academy and will be nurtured as the core of the academy. Everyone knew that the purpose of the Ars Academy's existence was to nurture the foreign territories' pillars. And only the young sovereigns who could receive the title of Ars Academy could be considered pillars. And quasi-war guards were a type of prestige in themselves. They were only one step away from becoming a true titled war god. One could imagine how high the value of a quasi-war god was. Sigh, but I heard a rumor. This time, the Ars Academy seems to have decided on a quasi-war god. I heard that too. It seems that a chaos body appeared in the great state of Heaven Tomb. TSK, that's the unparalleled chaos body. How long has it been since someone with the chaos body appeared in our world? No wonder the Ars Academy chose him. But to get the quasi-war god title right off the bat, isn't that a bit inappropriate? After all, the 10 heavenly kings haven't been given the title yet, let alone the 7 minor emperors. That's true. The Chaos Body's talent is definitely unparalleled, but his experience doesn't seem to be enough. His only battle record was that he defeated everyone at the Heavenly Immortal Banquet in the great state of Heaven Tomb. Just as the living beings in the surroundings were discussing amongst themselves, suddenly, a cold snort was heard. H, without going through the test, who has the qualifications to get the quasi-war god title for free? Hearing this cold snort, the prodigies all looked over. Their eyes were instantly filled with shock. It was a tall male. Behind him, the silhouette of an ancient tree appeared. There were also snowflakes revolving around him. Those weren't real snowflakes, but demonic cattail seeds. This male was one of the 10 heavenly kings who was defeated by Jun Xiaoyaro in the world of God, Pu Yarrow. Chapter 936. Pu Yarrow was one of the 10 heavenly kings. His ranking wasn't high, and his combat power couldn't be compared to Li Jiuyi. The reason why he could be one of the 10 heavenly kings was because he had the special method of the cattail demon clan, the cattail demon seed. He could control his opponents and turn them into puppets. His methods were strange and unpredictable. At this moment, Pu Yarrow's arrival silenced all the prodigies. He came from the cattail demon emperor clan and was one of the 10 heavenly kings. Pu Yarrow's prestige was still very high. Hearing the discussions around him, Pu Yarrow was a bit unhappy. Previously, he was defeated by Jun Xiaoyaro in the ruins of God, and even his Dao heart was damaged. It was only after Jun Xiaoyaro perished that he regained his composure. Now, he had come to the Ars Academy to further improve himself. After all, Jun Xiaoyaro let him know what it meant by there was always someone better than you. So what if he was one of the 10 heavenly kings? So what if he was a prodigy of the cattail demon emperor clan? He was still defeated like a dog. So what if he has the chaotic body? No one can snatch the quasi-war god status from me. Pu Yarrow snorted coldly in his heart. There were only 10 quasi-war god seats, and they were very precious. And it wasn't guaranteed. Even if he got the quasi-war god status, if he was defeated by others, he could only give up the quasi-war god status. However, The advantage of getting it in advance was that he could enjoy the various resources of Ars Academy in advance. This was something that couldn't be bought even with the immortal origin. Especially in Ars Academy, some old antiques with extremely high cultivation and seniority were preaching. Only quasi-war gods were qualified to listen to some of them and receive pointers. This was also why Pu Yarrow wanted the quasi-war god status so much. Now, that chaotic body could get the quasi-war god seat for free. Pu Yarrow was naturally unhappy. Pu Yarrow, it seems that you don't want that chaotic body to get the quasi-war god status for free. At this moment, a voice sounded again. A figure came from the horizon. His entire body was covered in a black robe, and his pale-looking hand was holding a rotten wooden staff. There was a lantern-like thing on it, and there were all kinds of strange poisonous insects flying inside. It's the prodigy of the Jiyu clan, Jiyu Yi. There was another wave of commotion. The prodigy of the Jiyu clan, Jiyu Yi, was also one of the 10 heavenly kings. Hihi, looks like we have the same goal. Another voice sounded. This was a male wearing resplendent golden armor. Even his hair was a faint golden color, releasing endless radiance. Golden Armor Clan, Jin Zhon. Another heavenly king-level character had appeared, including the two of us. Another voice rang out. It came from a figure with 2 heads and a sturdy figure. Like a 2-headed cannibal mage. That was the prodigy of the 2-headed god race, who was also one of the 10 heavenly kings. Many of the foreign geniuses present exclaimed in surprise. He did not expect to see several of the 10 heavenly kings appear in such a short time. Moreover, they seemed to be dissatisfied with the fact that the body of chaos had been selected as a quasi-war god. The quasi-war god slot should be fought for by oneself and not by the charity of the Ars Academy, Jin Zhon said in an indifferent tone. His pupils and hair were light gold, and he looked extraordinarily handsome, like the son of the sun. This race was born with golden armor, and their physical defense was unparalleled. Jin Zhon also had the title of Immovable Wisdom King. It was very difficult to completely injure him. Hearing Jin Zhon's words, the surrounding prodigies did not dare to say anything on the surface, but they were all complaining in their hearts, saying that the quasi-war god slot should be fought for by oneself. However, if the Ars Academy had given the slot to them, these heavenly kings would definitely accept it happily. To put it bluntly, it was just jealousy and jealousy in his heart. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't Li Juyi still have a battle with the body of chaos? If he can't beat Li Juyi, how can he still have the face to get the quasi-war god slot? The prodigy of the Jiyu clan, Jiyu Yi, said in a hoarse and cold voice. TSK, you make being jealous sound so dignified. You guys are really something. Just then, a crisp voice rang out. In the distant sky, a beautiful figure was riding on a heavenly feather horse, flying over. Behind her, there was a horse carrying a dark-skinned youth following behind her. It was Tushan Wnwan and Yun Xiaohe, who had rushed to the Ars Academy. Seeing Tushan Wnwan's arrival, the eyes of all the prodigies present lit up. The Tushan 5 beauties were famous for their beauty. The quintuplet beauties each had their own charm, their own differences, and their own personalities. Some were extremely charming, some were demure and elegant, some were valiant, and some were cute and innocent, like Linglong. It could be said that the Tushan 5 beauties were the dream lovers of most young men in the foreign lands. Being able to get one of them was already a blessing of 3 lifetimes. I heard that the marriage banquet for the Tushan 5 princesses is also about to be decided. When the time comes, we must attend. You can only watch the show. Do you really think that you have the qualifications to marry one of them? Hehe, of course I'm just watching the show. However, do you think that there will be a big shot who will marry all 5 of them at once? I think you're dreaming. How is that possible? Even if it's a sleeping prince or a descendant of an ancient hidden monarch clan, they don't have the qualifications, right? Following Tushan Wnwan's arrival, many discussions broke out. Tushan Wn sat on the heavenly feather horse. The green armor on her body accentuated her slim and curvy body. Her exquisite facial features were also incomparably beautiful. Although she was called a tomboy by the other sisters, her appearance wasn't any weaker than the other sisters. Her single ponytail was raised high, clean, and neat. Right now, as she looked around, there was a valiant and heroic aura. So it's the fourth princess. Pu Yarrow nodded. Jin Zhon's expression wasn't too good. Tushan Wn Wan's words were obviously mocking them. If it was anyone else, Jin Zhon would have already taught them a lesson. However, Jin Zhon didn't dare to offend the Tushan fourth princess. Fourth princess, you're wrong. That chaotic body has just appeared and doesn't have much experience. Letting him become a quasi-war god might not be a good thing for him. Jin Zhon said calmly. Then you have the experience. Tushan Wn tilted her head and said. Jin Zhon's mouth twitched, the corners of his eyes also twitched. This Tushan fourth princess had a straightforward personality. Her words were also straightforward, not giving others any face. Right at this moment, a faint laugh suddenly sounded. Only those without strength talk about experience. Those with strength can ignore everything. This voice was as gentle as jade, but it seemed to ring in everyone's ears. Many people were surprised and looked toward the voice. Tushan Wn Wan's beautiful eyes also brightened. She liked this kind of straightforward and domineering speech. In the distant sky, a hazy figure in white slowly flew over. Mysterious space Tao patterns flowed under his feet. A moment ago, he was still in the sky, but the next moment, he was already in front of the mountain gate. His white clothes were hazy, and his body was tall and straight. His face seemed to be shrouded in a faint chaotic mist, but one could still see a corner of it. This is the chaotic body that appeared in the heavenly tomb state. The tens of thousands of sky prides at the scene were all dumbfounded. This was too extraordinary. It was as if a true immortal had descended and walked in the mortal world. Chapter 937. Previously, the news of the chaotic physique had already spread like wildfire in the foreign lands. Many people were curious about the chaotic body that had just appeared in the world. Now that the crowd had seen it, their eyes were filled with amazement. Divine appearance, jade-like bones, handsome and meaningful. He looked like a handsome young master in a chaotic world. However, the strands of primal chaos chi that coiled around his body clearly indicated that the true strength of this celestial-like man was not as gentle and refined as his temperament. Chaotic physique, Jin Zhon, Jiyu Kai, and the two-headed god race prodigy all had a serious look in their eyes. From the beginning to the end, they had never underestimated the chaotic physique. They were just a little unconvinced that Jun Xiaoyaro could become a quasi-god of war. On the other hand, Pu Yarrow was also a little wary of the chaotic physique. However, what puzzled him was that when he looked at the chaotic physique, he had a strange sense of familiarity in his heart. He felt like he had seen it somewhere before. Of course, Pu Yarrow shook his head inwardly and thought that it was just an illusion. It was impossible for him to have seen the chaotic physique before. Is this the chaotic physique? However, the brilliance in Tushan Wanwan's beautiful eyes was a little dazzling. A gentle and graceful woman was a gentleman's mate. The reverse was also true. Tushan Wanwan's character was not a love-struck fool. However, Jun Xiaoyao's temperament also stunned her. Behind him, Chun Chun and Fei Qingxue also followed closely. When she saw Chun Chun, Tushan Wanwan's crystal-clear eyes widened slightly. Fifth sister, why are you here? His words caused everyone to be astonished. Chuanchuan's little eyes were a little evasive as she pursed her red lips. She did not expect to meet Tushan Wanwan here. She stopped pretending and directly laid her cards on the table. The smoke surged and her body shook, revealing her true form. It was a teenage girl in pink clothes. Her long white hair was soft and smooth, and her palm-sized face was delicate and charming. She had a jade-like nose, big eyes, and long eyelashes. Her bare feet were whiter than snow, and a red string was tied around her slender ankle. She looked like a porcelain doll carved out of jade. Of course, she was different from what Jun Xiaoyaro had seen before. Two furry fox ears popped out of Chuanchuan's head. Behind his buttocks, there were also 9 furry fox tails. She turned into a little loli with beast ears. This was Chuanchuan's true colors. No. She should be called Tushan Chun Chun. Is that the 5th princess of Tushan? The fifth princess of Tushan has been following the chaos body. What's going on? All the living beings in the surroundings were incomparably stunned. She didn't expect that Jun Xiaoyao's little attendant was the fifth princess of Tushan. Fei Qingxue was also surprised. She didn't expect that the little girl who usually fought with her for favor had such a powerful background. On the other hand, Jun Xiaoyao's expression was indifferent. "Hey, sir, why aren't you surprised at all?" Tushan Chun tilted her head, blinked, and looked at Jun Xiaoyao. "Do you think I can't see through your foxtail?" Jun Xiaoyao grabbed the foxtail behind Tushan Chuanchuan's little butt and pulled it. "Ah, sir." Tushan Chuanchuan's delicate little face immediately turned red. Tushan Wanwan's expression was a little strange when she saw this scene. The tail of the Tushan Fox clan was a private part. Only the people closest to them could touch it. Did fifth sister really find her Mr. Right? Tushan Wanwan thought to herself. Tushan Chun wanted to find her true love because she resisted the betrothal contest, so she secretly left Tushan. They didn't look for her because the treasures on Tushan Chuanchuan's body were enough to protect her. This interlude caused many people to be stunned. Countless jealous gazes fell on Jun Xiaoyao. The fifth princess of Tushan was the youngest. She was eccentric and cute. Now that she was following Jun Xiaoyao, it was natural that she made people jealous. At this moment, a white-haired old man with a ruddy complexion stepped on the void and came from the mountain gate. The old man was wearing a plain white robe and didn't have any special aura. He looked like an old farmer. However, when some of the more knowledgeable geniuses saw this old man, they were all surprised and hurriedly bowed. "Greetings, Elder Mu." This old man was an elder of the inner court who had quite a bit of seniority. Even though he did not have any terrifying suppressive aura, he was a genuine mystique venerable. "Greetings, Elder Mu." Even Pu Yarrow, Jin Zhon, Jiu Kai, and the Gemini divine tribe prodigies also bowed respectfully. Although they were all from boundary emperor tribes and emperor tribes, there was no lack of mystique venerables. However, Elder Mu was very senior in the inner yard. If they offended him, it would be difficult for them to survive in the Ars Academy. However, what made Pu Yarrow and the others speechless was that Elder Mu nodded slightly. His expression was indifferent as he ignored them. Then, he came to Jun Xiaoyao's side. His expression immediately became amiable, just like a benevolent old man. The more he looked at Jun Xiaoyao, the more satisfied he was. "Is this the chaotic body? It's the real deal." Elder Mu clicked his tongue. When Pu Yarrow and the others heard this, their expressions turned ugly. On the other hand, Tushan Xiaoxiao's beautiful eyes sparkled. This was the first time this mysterious chaotic body came, and Elder Mu had personally appeared. "Elder, you flatter me. I only took advantage of the physique." Jun Xiaoyao bowed slightly. He was neither servile nor overbearing. He knew that his primal chaos physique and the true primal chaos physique were not the same concept, but they had almost identical abilities. Therefore, he wasn't afraid that the other powerhouses would notice. "Haha, you can go directly to the inner yard. You don't have to go through any checkpoints." Elder Mu waved his hand and smiled. It was as if he was talking to his own grandson. It was indescribably intimate. Pu Yarrow and the other heavenly king-tier prodigies stood at the side. They were extremely embarrassed, and their faces were slightly green. Their backgrounds and talents weren't bad. Wasn't this too much of a discrimination? Isn't this a little inappropriate? Jun Xiaoyao asked hesitantly. He still had to act as if he had to. "You're too polite. Don't talk about entering the inner yard. I've already decided that you'll be the quasi-god of war. In the future, you'll have the greatest authority to allocate resources." Elder Mu chuckled. Jun Xiaoyao laughed in his heart, but on the surface, he pretended to be surprised. "I'm flattered. Don't mention it. You deserve it." Old Master Mu was satisfied. Temperament, talents, and abilities. There was nothing to say. As for background and history, to the Ars Academy, as long as they were from the foreign lands, had talents, and were willing to contribute to the foreign lands, they would be able to enter the academy. "Elder Mu, may I ask a question? Although the chaotic body is heaven-defying, Isn't it a little inappropriate to get the quasi-god of war status just like that? Pu Yarrow and the other prodigies said. Jun Xiaoyaro glanced at Pu Yarrow and smiled coldly. He didn't expect to meet this person who he had defeated in the ruins of God. If he had the chance, he would directly eliminate him. Elder Mu's face darkened when he heard this. His tone was cold. If you think it's unfair, then go and complain to the unparalleled ancients of the academy. Elder Mu's words shocked all the prodigies present. Their hearts skipped a beat. Pu Yarrow and the other Heavenly King prodigies felt as if their hearts had stopped. Their faces turned green. The ancient supremes of the Ars Academy were the oldest group of people in the Ars Academy. They were the strongest experts of the Ars Academy, the pillars of the Academy, the guardians. Even the weakest unparalleled ancients were Tao sovereigns. And they weren't lacking in quasi-immortal and true immortal. This caused Pu Yarrow's face to turn green, then purple, and finally pale. If he offended the unparalleled ancients, then he could forget about entering the Ars Academy. On the other hand, Jun Xiaoyao's eyes flashed with surprise. He didn't have any karma with the Ars Academy. The unparalleled ancients of the Ars Academy had taken a liking to him. Chapter 938. Elder Mu's words almost shut the mouths of all the prodigies present. Even if they were dissatisfied with Jun Xiaoyaro obtaining the status of a quasi-war god for no reason, they did not dare to show it. After all, it was the ancient supreme existence of the academy who had taken a fancy to him. The others could not say anything. Even Pu Yarrow and the others kept their mouths shut tactfully, although their expressions were still very unpleasant. "Young friend, follow me to the inner court," Elder Mu said amiably. At this moment, a voice sounded and interrupted Jun Xiaoyao's reply. "Elder Mu, I would like to meet this new quasi-war god of the Ars Academy. How capable is he?" As the voice fell, a handsome young man dressed in black and gold walked over with his hands behind his back. An old servant followed behind him. Li Jiufang. Li Jiufang's arrival stirred up a commotion. This was the young master of the infernal imperial family. The true young master of an imperial family. As for Pu Yarrow, although he was also a member of the Cattail Demon clan. But in comparison, his status was not as high as Li Jiufang's. At this moment, Li Jiufang's arrival had undoubtedly stirred up a fiery atmosphere. After all, Li Jiufang and Jun Xiaoyaro had a conflict before. Jun Xiaoyaro had killed Li Jiufang's concubine. Li Jiufang had even said that he wanted to fight Jun Xiaoyaro in the Ars Academy. Now, the two of them finally met. Unlike what he had imagined, the atmosphere did not smell like gunpowder. Li Jiufang did not even show any obvious anger. But it was that calm appearance that made the undercurrent even more turbulent. Jun Xiaoyaro took a look at Li Jiuyi and nodded slightly to himself. After all, he was the young master of an imperial family. He still had to behave. At least he would not be embarrassed into anger because of a concubine. Of course, this grudge had been formed. Jun Xiaoyaro was not afraid. Seeing this, Elder Mu's eyes showed a trace of displeasure, but he could not say anything. After all, Li Jiufang's words were still considered appropriate and not too extreme. Truth be told, Elder Mu himself only treated Jun Xiaoyaro with such an attitude because of the words of the ancient beings of the inner yard. He was also very curious about Jun Xiaoyao's true strength. "Come on then." Jun Xiaoyaro flicked his sleeve. It was time to show his might. That would save him the trouble of provoking any Tom, Dick, and Harry. Today was a good day for him to establish his reputation in front of tens of thousands of geniuses. Jun Xiaoyao's words immediately caused an uproar among the audience. Other than wanting to join the Ars Academy, these geniuses had come here for other reasons. Another reason was that he wanted to see the battle between Jun Xiaoyaro and Li Jiuyi. After all, one of them was the infernal imperial clan's young master who possessed the ancestral returning eyes. One of them had an unparalleled primal chaos physique. The battle between the two was indeed very eye-catching. How interesting. Tushan Wn Wan's beautiful face also showed a touch of excitement. She was a little violent and believed in the supremacy of force, so she was most interested in this kind of confrontation. Awesome. Li Jiuming's lips also curled into a cold smile. It was not a bad idea to use the primal chaos physique as his whetstone. However, Jun Xiaoyaro changed the topic and said, "I think you've misunderstood." "What do you mean?" Li Jiuming frowned slightly. "I'm not talking about you alone. The 10 heavenly king-level geniuses are all qualified to fight together." His words were like a clap of thunder. Everyone was stunned. Their pupils constricted, and their minds were a little dizzy. Jun Xiaoyaro alone was challenging all 10 heavenly king-level geniuses present. One should know that there were 5 heavenly king-level geniuses present: Li Jiuming, Pu Yarou, Jin Zhon, Jiu Kai, and the Gemini divine tribe. Half of the 10 heavenly king-level geniuses were present. Jun Xiaoyaro wanted to challenge 5 heavenly king-level geniuses alone. Many people also noticed Jun Xiaoyao's choice of words. The 10 heavenly king-level geniuses were all qualified to fight him. In other words, the geniuses below the 10 heavenly king-level geniuses were not even qualified to fight Jun Xiaoyaro. That was what made Jun Xiaoyaro so frightening to everyone. He was too arrogant. Haha, as expected of the primal chaos physique. Elder Mu laughed, becoming more and more interested. Interesting, really interesting. Tushan Wanwan's beautiful eyes were even brighter. She, who had a martial spirit, liked this kind of domineering speech the most. Compared to the uproar in the audience, Li Jiuming's face darkened slightly. Pu Yarou and the others looked as if they had eaten tea. Who were they? The 10 heavenly king-level geniuses of the younger generation. But now, it felt like they were being used as a unit of measurement. Those who were not heavenly king-level geniuses were not qualified to fight Jun Xiaoyaro. When had they ever suffered such humiliation? Primal chaos physique, aren't you a little too arrogant? Are you looking down on me? Li Jiuming frowned. I'm just telling the truth, Jun Xiaoyaro said. Haha, what an arrogant person. Li Jiuming, don't make a move first. Let me deal with this arrogant guy. Jin Zhon of the Golden Armor clan was so angry that he laughed. His pale golden pupils emitted a threatening cold light, and his pale golden hair danced in the wind. He was really angered by Jun Xiaoyaro. Boom. Without any unnecessary words, Jin Zhon directly attacked and activated the power of his physical body. The Golden Armor clan was good at refining their bodies. The secret technique of their clan, the immovable Wisdom King, allowed their clan to stand tall in the foreign territory for a long time. The golden fist light was extremely surging, and the runes were like a sea. Following his punch, it blasted towards Jun Xiaoyaro. He is indeed a quasi-supreme. The geniuses were terrified. The 10 heavenly king-level geniuses all had the combat power of a quasi-supreme. Just this simple punch of Jin Zhon's was something that not many prodigies present could withstand. More gazes were cast towards Jun Xiaoyaro. After all, Jun Xiaoyaro had only fought a limited number of times, and the only time was at the Heavenly Immortal Banquet. His opponent was only a servant who was 9 feet away. Although he suppressed him single-handedly, many people were not clear about Jun Xiaoyao's true strength. Facing Jin Zhon's fist, Jun Xiaoyaro just extended a palm in an ordinary manner. In that instant, heaven and earth surged, chaotic energy surge. This palm actually gave off the feeling of the beginning of chaos. Bang! The collision was accompanied by a muffled groan. Jin Zhon's fist arm exploded, blood splattering everywhere. His entire body retreated explosively, a trace of shock in his eyes. Jun Xiaoyao's expression was indifferent as he took a step forward. In the next moment, he directly appeared in front of Jin Zhon. His 5 fingers clenched into a fist and directly smashed down. Immovable Wisdom King, Jin Zhon shouted fiercely. Only now did he understand what kind of existence he had provoked. Buzz buzz. On Jin Zhon's body, pieces of golden armor trembled, revealing all kinds of ancient and complicated runes. Jin Zhon seemed to have transformed into a golden-armored divine general with the phantom of the immovable Wisdom King behind him, as though it could suppress the heavens. Jun Xiaoyao's fist was unbiased as he punched down. Strands of chaos chi coiled around his fist like mist. Fart! A single punch smashed Jin Zhon's body, causing his flesh and bones to splatter in all directions. The golden armor on his body shattered. The phantom of the immovable Wisdom King was even destroyed by the Chaos Chi. Only one Origin soul turned into a ray of golden light and flew into the distance. The Origin soul's face was filled with unprecedented fear and terror. The entire place was dead silent. Among the 10 heavenly kings, Jin Zhon of the Golden Armor race was known for his unparalleled physique and invincible defense. His body was destroyed by Jun Xiaoyaro in 2 moves. Chapter 939. The mountain gate of Ars Academy was originally bustling with noise and excitement. But now, it was so quiet that even a pin drop could be heard. One of the 10 heavenly kings, Jin Zhon from the Golden Armor race, could not even block 2 moves from Jun Xiaoyaro. One had to know that anyone who could become one of the 10 heavenly kings had some skills. Even the sleeping emperor's son, the 7 minor emperors, and so on could not deal with the 10 heavenly kings in just 2 or 3 moves. But now, it was just 2 moves. Jun Xiaoyaro did not even use any divine ability and destroyed Jin Zhon's body. That was the Golden Armor race, which was known for their physical defense. They were not some weak race that specialized in cultivating the primordial spirit. What did this mean? It meant that the Chaos Body's physical body was beyond everyone's imagination. The minds of all the prodigies went blank. Is this the legendary Chaos Body? A prodigy murmured in a daze. As the saying went, seeing is believing. Hearing others talk about how powerful the Chaos Body was, no one had any idea. But now, a shocking scene played out in front of everyone. As expected of the Chaos Body. That person's foresight is really. Elder Mu exclaimed. Ars Academy had already decided to directly bring Jun Xiaoyaro into the inner court. But in fact, it was not confirmed whether to give Jun Xiaoyaro the quasi-war god status. It was an ancient quasi-immortal level fighter who insisted on recommending Jun Xiaoyaro, which allowed him to become a quasi-war god without anyone knowing. At first, Elder Mu was also puzzled by this decision. But now, it seemed that the quasi-immortal's foresight was indeed sharp. As for Tushan Wanwan, her beautiful eyes were even more dazzling. She rubbed her palms and could not hold back. She wanted to spar with Jun Xiaoyaro. Li Juming frowned. Pu Yarrow, Jiu Kai, and the 2-headed god race prodigy's expressions also became unprecedentedly solemn. How is this possible? That Chaos Body, Jin Zhon was only left with his primordial spirit. His expression was trembling and filled with disbelief. Don't be careless. Attack. Jiu Kai from the Jiu race said in a hoarse and cold voice. Jun Xiaoyaro had already said that he wanted to challenge all of them. If they did not make a move, it would make people feel that the 10 heavenly kings were people who did not live up to their reputation. Jiu attacked. The lantern on the rotten wooden staff in his hand flickered with brilliance. A large amount of black fog appeared. Upon closer inspection, one could see that they were all poisonous insects. Those are soul-devouring mosquitoes. Many of the surrounding sky prides retreated. A single one of these soul-devouring mosquitoes could suck the soul of a saint dry. Not to mention the fact that it was surging like a black fog. The prodigy of the 2-headed celestial race made his move as well. Holding a staff in his hand, billions of Abhijna radiances appeared. The 2-headed celestial race was proficient in magical powers. They could summon the wind and rain. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Tao patterns appeared between heaven and earth, interweaving with terrifying killing lights. Pu Yarrow naturally made a move as well. Although the 2 moves from before had caused him to recall some unpleasant memories, Pu Yarrow was still able to make a move. He recalled that in the world of the ruins of God, that white-robed figure had also defeated all of them in 2 or 3 moves. Is this a heart demon? Pu Yarrow sighed to himself. Jun Xiaoyaro had already fallen, and it was impossible for him to appear again. As for Li Jiui, he did not make a move immediately. As the young master of a monarch race, he still had to have some face. Moreover, he was one of the top 3 existences among the 10 heavenly kings. It was not appropriate for him to make a move with the others. Jun Xiaoyao's expression was still calm, and he still did not use any magical powers. His body shook, and chaotic patterns interweaved. He did not need to use any magical powers. Just his chaotic physique alone could easily crush those of the same level. Otherwise, What was so powerful about the chaotic physique? This was a physique that came from the same source as the Azure Emperor. Bang! Jun Xiaoyaro grabbed with one hand, and it was as if the sky had collapsed. The black fog formed by the soul-devouring mosquitoes was directly enveloped in it, and then all of them were killed. The chaotic aftermath overflowed, shaking the surroundings. The venomous insect at the front was impacted and directly retreated. Its bones cracked, and bloody wounds appeared on its body. Compared to Jin Zhon, who was proficient in body tempering, the venomous insect was even more pathetic. Heavenly lightning extreme karma. The two-headed celestial race prodigy roared. The sky changed color, and black clouds surged. Bolts of lightning gathered and then turned into a lightning dragon that struck down. This was a top-tier technique. It was like a heavenly tribulation, punishing on behalf of the heavens. Jun Xiaoyao's eyes were even more indifferent when he saw this. He had grasped the Lightning Emperor's magical powers, so any lightning laws were at his fingertips. He could use and resolve them at will. However, Jun Xiaoyaro did not even need to resolve an attack of this level. Rumble. Thousands of lightning bolts drowned Jun Xiaoyaro at the same time. It was as if they had turned into a lightning waterfall, washing away everything there. Even that space was about to be split open by the lightning. Success. The two-headed celestial race prodigy's face was filled with joy. However, before his smile could be completely revealed, he saw Jun Xiaoyaro slowly stepping out of the lightning waterfall. It was a terrifying lightning that could instantly turn a sacred lord-level expert into charcoal. However, it could not even break Jun Xiaoyao's white robes. The lightning danced on his body, but it could not hurt Jun Xiaoyaro at all. Jun Xiaoyaro took a step forward and landed in front of the two-headed celestial race prodigy. With a flick of his finger, a bolt of lightning burst out and tore through the void. Boom! It was clearly just a bolt of lightning, but it let out an earth-shattering explosion. Ah! The two-headed celestial race prodigy let out a tragic cry as he turned into charcoal and fell to the ground, his fate unknown. Finally, Jun Xiaoyao's gaze landed on Pu Yao. He could be considered as an old acquaintance. Back in the world of the divine ruins, Jun Xiaoyaro had yet to break through to quasi-supreme. At that time, even Pu Yao could not defeat him. Let alone now, the difference in their true strength was like heaven and earth. Forget it. Pu Yao wanted to say something, but Jun Xiaoyaro continued to slap out casually. The palm formed by the chaos aura was so clear that even the palm lines could be seen clearly. It was like the palm of a chaos divine king that came crashing down. Boom! Pu Yao was slapped to the ground and a 1,000-foot crater was formed around him. Dense radial cracks spread out. Then, Jun Xiaoyaro stomped his foot and chaos ripples spread out. The Jiu Kai was also shaken until he spat out large mouthfuls of blood and his body cracked as he retreated. 4 of the 10 heavenly kings were defeated by Jun Xiaoyaro casually. There was no longer any sound in the world. In the eyes of all the paragons, the 10 heavenly kings were high and mighty. In the hands of Jun Xiaoyaro, they were like clay chickens and pottery dogs that could not withstand a single blow. Li Jiui, attack. Don't give me the illusion that the 10 heavenly kings are weak. Jun Xiaoyao's tone was indifferent. Although it was the truth, in the ears of everyone, it was definitely a condescending mockery. Even the 7 minor theurches wouldn't say that. Chaotic body, you've gone overboard. Although Li Jiui said that, his expression was unprecedentedly solemn. Attack. Let me take the initiative, and you won't have the chance to attack, Jun Xiaoyaro said. Seeing this, Li Jiui did not say much and directly summoned the Infernal Clan's bloodline ability. He raised his hand, and a crack spread in his palm and then opened. An ancient and strange evil eye emerged and was still spinning. For a time, the world changed color and the void was turbulent. When the evil eye appeared, the world was destroyed. Chapter 940. The Infernal Clan's evil eye was a natural supernatural ability. The purer the bloodline, the stronger the bloodline power, and the stronger the evil eye that was born. What Li Jiui had was the atavistic eye. It meant that his bloodline power was extremely strong. If such a person did not die, he might become an immortal king in the future. So powerful. Rumor has it that the infernal evil eye that Li Jiui controls has the signs of atavism. As expected of the infernal clan's young master, as soon as the infernal evil eye was activated, the world shook, and the void trembled like a piece of paper. All kinds of mysterious, strange, and powerful runes were imprinted in the sky. Those were the special runes that belonged to the infernal clan. They accompanied the evil eye and were extremely powerful, manifesting supreme supernatural abilities. It does have the signs of immortality. Even Elder Mu nodded his head in agreement. He's really powerful. I might not be able to defeat him. Tushan Wanwan was also paying attention to the situation. Don't worry, he's definitely no match for Master. Tushan Chun Chun came to Tushan Wanwan's side and said confidently. You're so sure? Of course. Master has never been defeated since he walked out of the heavenly tomb. He has never even used his full strength, Tushan Chun Chun said. You little girl, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to him? Tushan Wanwan looked at Tushan Chun Chun suspiciously. How? How can it be that easy? I still need to observe. My Chun Chun is destined to be the most perfect one, Tushan Chun Chun said with her hands on her waist. Her jade-like neck and sparkling ears were dark red. Tushan Wanwan shook her head slightly. In the field, Li Jiui directly activated his bloodline power. Obviously, he did not underestimate Jun Xiaoyaro at all. Whoosh! A beam of destruction shot out from the infernal evil eye. The infernal imperial clan's evil eyes possessed all sorts of different abilities. For example, Wu Kuan's evil eye had the ability to bind and freeze primordial spirits. The atavistic eye that Li Jiui possessed had many mysterious, powerful, and strange abilities. This beam of destruction was only one of them. Seeing this, Jun Xiaoyao directly slapped out with his bare hands. A beam of calamity light appeared in his palm as if it came from the heavens. It was the light of tribulation. Although Jun Xiaoyao's Supreme Being Bone had shattered and turned into Supreme Being Divine Blood, Jun Xiaoyao's Supreme Being Bone was still a Supreme Being. However, Jun Xiaoyao was able to cast all three of the Bones of Supremacy with ease. Boom! Jun Xiaoyao seemed to be holding the light of destruction in his palm, which immediately extinguished the beam of the infernal evil eye. He took a step forward and landed in front of Li Jiui. Li Jiu's eyelids twitched. He had just witnessed the power of the chaotic body. He knew that engaging in close combat with the chaos body was no different from courting death. Although Li Jiui's physical body was extremely strong, he had been watered and baptized with various treasured liquids since he was young. His physical body was not much weaker than Jin Zhon's, who had a special physique. But the problem was that even Jin Zhon's physical body was destroyed by Jun Xiaoyao's punch. His fleshly body was nothing compared to it. Li Jiui cast a speed divine ability as black Dao patterns intertwined beneath his feet. In an instant, space fluctuated, and he retreated 1,000 feet. At least you have some self-awareness, Jun Xiaoyao said indifferently. Evil eye binding god. Li Jiui raised his hand again, and the infernal evil eye in his palm released a brilliance. In an instant, Jun Xiaoyao felt that his primordial spirit was bound. This binding force was several times stronger than the move that Wu Kuan had released before. If it was an ordinary primordial spirit, it might have been directly immobilized. However, Jun Xiaoyao's primordial spirit was the primordial spirit of 3 lifetimes. In addition, he had the ancient Chaos Imperial Talisman, an imperial weapon that protected his primordial spirit. Even if Li Jiui cast the evil eye binding god, he would not be able to immobilize him. Seeing that Jun Xiaoyao was not affected at all, Li Jiui's expression became even more solemn. Eye of despair. Li Jiui shouted sternly as he summoned a quasi-emperor weapon. It was a bronze eye that was stained with blood. It looked strange and terrifying. At the same time, heaven and earth darkened, and a ghostly wind blew. It was as if the wails of billions of living beings rang out. That's the infernal imperial clan's quasi-immortal weapon, a replica of the Eye of Despair. Some of the more knowledgeable prodigies from the foreign domain exclaimed in surprise. The Eye of Despair was the infernal imperial clan's quasi-immortal weapon. Rumor had it that it was a quasi-immortal weapon forged from the despair of billions of living beings. In the previous epochs, when the immortal domain and the foreign domain were fighting, the Eye of Despair would be the Eye of Despair. Every time there was a bloody battle, the infernal imperial clan would use the Eye of Despair to collect the despair of billions of living beings. From this, it could be seen how powerful this quasi-immortal weapon was. And now, although what Li Jiui had summoned was only a replica of the Eye of Despair, it had consumed the despair of hundreds of millions of living beings to reach the level of a quasi-emperor weapon. What was even more powerful was that this Eye of Despair could also enhance the ability of the infernal evil eye, making it even stronger. Dark demonic light. A terrifying beam of light shot out from Li Jiui's palm, and then directly shot onto the Eye of Despair. The Eye of Despair was like an amplifier, amplifying the power of his move by more than several times. An even more terrifying beam of light pierced through the void and fell straight toward Jun Xiaoyao. Now that's interesting. Jun Xiaoyao raised his hand, and chaotic energy surged. Then, it condensed into a chaotic palm print and slapped out. Boom! A shocking sound resounded through the sky. The prodigies from all directions retreated. Just the aftermath of such a battle could injure prodigies below the quasi-supreme level. Swoosh! A white-clothed figure broke through the smoke and dust and suppressed Li Jiui. He's actually fine. Li Jiui was really shocked. This was not only the power of the infernal evil eye, but also the enhancement of the Eye of Despair. But even so, it still could not cause any harm to Jun Xiaoyao. Isn't this too ridiculous? The tens of thousands of prodigies present were all dumbfounded. Their eyes widened, and their scalps went numb. Their bodies were about to be petrified. The chaotic physique was indeed the strongest physique in the legends, but it shouldn't be so strong, right? I don't believe this. Li Jiui's cheeks twitched slightly. The ability of atavism, the evil eye in the sky, the heaven and earth will collapse. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sound of an ancient demon god chanting scriptures seemed to be heard between heaven and earth. The sky split open, and a huge evil eye of energy appeared. This was the strongest ability that only the infernal evil eye, which had the ability of atavism, could use. It was rumored that the true immortal of the infernal imperial family could use this ability to cause the heaven and earth to collapse, and the sun and moon to dim. It could instantly kill hundreds of millions of living beings. The eye opened in the sky, and the huge evil eye shot out a thick purple beam of light, illuminating the entire sky. This purple beam of light, with the enhancement of the Eye of Despair, burst forth with the power of destruction. Not to mention the quasi-supreme level. Even a real Nine Heavens Supreme would feel threatened by the move. Elder Mu was already frowning. This was no longer a spar, but an ultimate move of life and death. We can't let anything happen to the chaotic physique. Elder Mu was ready to intervene. Everyone looked at Jun Xiaoyao. However, they found that Jun Xiaoyao stood there calmly, as if he could not feel this destructive power. Only now can you arouse my interest. Jun Xiaoyao sighed and raised his hand. An incomparably bright brilliance appeared. The Deluo sword embryo appeared,